And good evening. We welcome you to the Continental Ballroom here at the Orlando International Hyatt in Orlando, Florida. So glad that you could join us for Thursday Primetime here for the 10th Annual USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals. Brian Rushing here with you. And joining me tonight in the world of powerlifting is that if there is a social media maven, it would have to be the color analyst beside of me. Please welcome Meg Gallagher. Meg, thank you so much for being here to offer your expertise tonight. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I am a 63-kilo powerlifter, so it's an honor to be able to color commentate for the 63-kilo primetime session.
Well, it's going to be a fantastic evening, and certainly you have a great level of expertise, especially to what we're going to see on the 63-kilo side for the women. Who are some of the individuals specifically on the ladies' side that are really going to be stars this evening in the contest, and those that you'll think that will really perform at a very high level this evening?
Well, this year has been really interesting because usually Jennifer Thompson is #1 and untouchable pretty much. So she's had an interesting year dealing with some injuries. She didn't attend this last Raw World IPF World Championships. So everyone's wondering how Jennifer is going to come back this year at Nationals. And there are 3 lifters who are tied with the same entry total behind her. In previous years, she's had a huge gap between #1 and 2. But now we've got Natalie Terrana, Sam Calhoun, and Kristen Dunsmore, who are all tied, trying to kind of take away Jen's #1 title that she's had for so many years.
It should be a hotly contested event here on the women's side. When you take a look at this event, Meg, certainly you performed this morning here in the earlier portion of the Thursday sessions. How difficult was it to get things going from the very start with your first lift? Now, you had the morning segment, so you basically had to come out of the box hot. For a lot of these lifters today, they've been kind of waiting around. The day kind of drug a little bit. We're a little bit late coming into the start of this broadcast. A slightly different dynamic, but they're going to have to be as focused and locked in when we get to the first lift as it is anyway. Kind of give us your thoughts on what we're going to see from them in that regard.
Well, one of the things that lifters can do, take advantage of, is a weight cut, and to wake up in the morning and weigh lighter and make your weight class is much easier to do at 6 a.m. rather than 6 p.m. as all of these lifters have been, many of them cutting weight, not drinking water all day, not eating much food. And now we finally have Jennifer Thompson taking the first lift, which is really exciting. She's kicking off the meet, and the crowd is going absolutely insane.
We're getting things started. Meg, you ready?
Oh, I'm pumped.
Let's get after it. Jennifer Thompson, the 44-year-old out of the state of North Carolina, will begin. She is going to have an opening lift in the squat of 130 kilos. 3 disciplines this evening. You'll see it all. We'll have the squat, then the bench, and then the deadlift. It's Thompson on the way down and back up.
And she smokes it.
3 white lights as she's on the board at 130 kilos in a packed house. And folks, when I'm talking about a packed house, I'm talking standing room only around the perimeter of this venue here. The Continental Ballroom is packed to the gills. So many people here, and we're glad that you're tuning in with us here on the 10th Annual USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals here in Orlando, Florida. As we'll have Kaitlyn Mendall coming in. She'll be at 132.5 kilos for her opening lift. Meg, how important is an opening lift for a competitor for not only putting a good score on, but just sort of getting the jitters out of the way?
Oh yeah, the most nerve-wracking part of the entire meet is that first squat, and kind of once you're in the game, that's when your stomach starts to go back into place and you start getting a little ready to perform.
Mendall, the 29-year-old out of Massachusetts, completes her lift. The officials, they like it. She gets 3 white lights. She's on the board at 132.5.
Off to a really good start here. It's always nice to see people making their openers.
Next up to the platform, it's a 29-year-old out of Connecticut, Bridgette Zacharchenko, coming on for her first squat this evening. Going to stay at 132.5. As we're just getting started here in Orlando, Florida. So glad that you could stay up with us, as I'm sure we'll be taking it to the midnight hour. Zacharchenko finishes the lift, and she's on the board at 132.5. Meg, have you had a lot of experience in lifting in events this late in the evening to start?
Me personally, I've been lucky enough to just get them over with at the beginning of the day, which is definitely an advantage, I would say. I think most lifters usually train in the evening after work. Everyone here has pretty normal lives other than powerlifting. They're moms, they're students, they're working jobs, they're having careers, so they're usually training after work just like the rest of us.
Ewa Januszkiewicz on the platform for her first lift at 140 kilos will be her opening salvo this evening. The 26-year-old out of Connecticut. Some amazing stories we'll tell about these lifters throughout the course of the evening.
Very easy squat for Ewa there. Always exciting to see her.
So Januszkiewicz on the board, 3 white lights, so she connects at 140, and that'll bring up Abby Citrin, a 28-year-old out of the state of Illinois. This will have 3 attempting rotations here in this women's segment of the 63 kilos, and then we'll flip over and have the men, the 10 lifters competing in the men's segment, the 83 kilos. Will have their 3 attempted rotations and then move over with a single platform this evening for prime time. So we'll go from the squats to the bench to the deadlift. Citrin brings it back to the rack at 145, 3 white lights, so she's on the board with her initial lift.
And I don't think we've seen a red light yet, so that's good.
Haven't seen a red light yet, and I would imagine that as far as the energy in the room, is it easier for a lifter to build themselves up going into the lift, or having the extra energy that the crowd brings and having to actually sort of dial it down a little bit because of that extra energy?
Controlling your conditions and controlling kind of your arousal as a lifter is definitely a skill that needs to be attended. We see some people get a little too pumped, and that can be detrimental, but it looks like these girls, they're pros. You know, they know how to take any conditions and just make it on the board.
Sarah Zastrow, the 22-year-old out of Wisconsin, cannot connect there, so she's 2 out of 3 red lights there, so she misses at 145 for her opener. And that will bring up Samantha Calhoun. Now, you mentioned Calhoun early in this contest. What are some of the attributes of a Samantha Calhoun that really impress you, this young lady from the state of Virginia?
Calhoun's going to be one to watch. You can see her opener is already really high. 352 pounds is pretty amazing for someone to take as an opener. Sam is notorious for an amazing, amazing deadlift, so we'll be keeping an eye out for her later on in the deadlift, definitely.
And to give you an idea of just how athletic this young lady is, she is a former Division I track athlete at the University of Nevada, Reno. So Calhoun definitely can do it in a number of pursuits. At 147.5, she completes the lift. The officials, they love it. She gets 3 white lights. So Calhoun on the board. So that will bring up Natalie Tirana. Tirana was another one of the names that you brought up very early on.
So far in that kind of trio that's tying for the podium finishers, we have Sam, who just lifted, Natalie, and then Kristin Dunsmore, who we've yet to see squat yet. She has a huge squat. That's definitely her strength there. So we'll see her later on in the fight.
155 kilos is her opener, which is really, really unbelievable. And to kind of give you an idea of just how well-rounded and how solid a group of individuals we've got performing this evening. Natalie Terrana, she's a cardiovascular technologist. Not a lot of those in a lot of other sporting pursuits. So she obviously has all the brains to match the brawn that she's presenting this evening as she opens at 155. Tirana, 3 white lights, and, you know, you certainly know a little bit about social media, Meg. This is what Natalie Terrana said about tonight's Thursday primetime segment. She said on her Instagram page, this is the battle of the century. Maybe an overstatement for those watching, but for her it just tells you how much it means to her and all of the circle and all the competitors here about just how much this event means to them being performed in primetime.
Oh yeah, I think these lifters are starting to see that, you know, with Jen there being some mystery around her training, not knowing what's going on. I think they're seeing an opening for that first place spot, and those girls are going to do whatever they can to get there.
Kristin Dunsmore, a 28-year-old out of the state of New York, is on the platform. 157.5 is her opener that she's going to attempt here. So Dunsmore will complete her lift, put it on the rack, and Meg, one of the things is she gets 3 white lights there. I noticed out of Dunsmore, if you're in most gyms watching most people lift that aren't competitive, you'll see they'll typically put the thing right around the base of their neck. Dunsmore there really seemed to set it in toward the middle of her shoulders, even in the upper back region. Give us an idea of what exactly that does for a lifter and why it could be an advantage.
So you'll see a lot of power lifters will opt for a low bar squat. So as opposed to a high bar squat where it's sitting right on the traps, it'll go a little bit lower on the back, and that helps the lifter keep the bar path in line with their feet still, so it's still a straight bar path and they're being extra efficient, but they're able to recruit their posterior chain a little bit more than the high bar squat where you're recruiting your quads. Obviously a little bit lower, a little bit less muscle recruited there.
Meghan Scanlon at 162.5 kilos gets 3 white lights, so the Massachusetts resident is on the board. So we've had everyone except for one lift going 3 white lights, as it's been a very solid opening segment here. We'll now go into the second attempt rotation as Kaitlyn Mendall will be on for her second attempt. She connected at 132.5. She's now going to make an attempt at 140. And I would imagine here, Meg, as we get into the second segment, maybe the nerves have sort of been suppressed a little bit. The first lift is out of the way. You've got a qualifying score for most of these lifters. Now, is it something to where you follow a plan of being a little more ambitious, or you just stick to the course of trying to increase the number off the first lift?
You know, I think you want to always pay attention to the speed of your squat, and here we can kind of see Kaitlyn taking a slower opener, or a slower second than we did see how quickly her opener moved. So she may take a smaller jump moving forward from that one.
So Mendall connects there, and that'll bring up Jennifer Thompson, who will be making an attempt going from 130, which was her opener. She connected there, going to 142.5 for her second.
You can see Jen always gives one of the spotters a little double fist bump there.
It's Jennifer Thompson with her second attempt out of the Charlotte metro area. She has become one of the real iconic figures in the world of powerlifting. Living in my neck of the woods now, the Charlotte metro area. Thompson, second attempt, 3 white lights. She's on at 142.5.
And that's the kind of second you want to take. You want it to be strong. You want it to move so that you can take a heavy third and maybe go for a little PR.
Well, and I would imagine that that's going to be the case for most of these lifters, as they have very solid PRs to begin with, or else they wouldn't be competing at the national level. But you would think that more often than not, a PR is going to be challenged in virtually every one of their disciplines.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. The best you can do is go 9 for 9 and hit some PRs. That's the best day you can ask for.
As Bridgette Zacharchenko at 142.5, her second attempt, and she's not going to be able to connect there. A good job from the spotters there. And Meg, we'll see this, I'm sure, at least 1 or 2 times more this evening, the importance of the spotters and the loaders. And the way that I've heard people describe it is, when you realize that the spotters and loaders have done their job is when you really don't pay attention to what it is that they're doing.
Exactly. And they're there to make sure everyone's safe, make sure that the lifters are feeling supported so that they can take some heavy attempts and feel stronger to the barbell.
Well, and an ancillary effect to that is, of course, they want to keep the lifters safe, but they're also basically given the charge of keeping the flow and the momentum of the event going as well. And they certainly don't waste any time in making the exchange from one weight to another as it goes during the course of the meet.
And you'll notice these guys have been working all weekend, and they're just killing it.
It's Abby Citrin. Cannot connect there. She had the first lift at 145. She misses at 150. So she has a qualifying score. She'll try to make amends here with her final attempt here in just a minute. It's Ewa Januszkiewicz, who connected at 140 just a moment ago, will be taking an attempt of 150 here in her second rotation. So glad that you could join us this evening inside the Continental Ballroom. It's the 10th annual USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals from Orlando, Florida, here at the Hyatt Orlando International Airport. Januszkiewicz waiting on the signal. Now we'll go into the lift. Seemed to handle that fairly easily. We'll see what happens as far as the judges are concerned. 3 white lights there. So Januszkiewicz on the board at 150, and that'll bring up Samantha Calhoun.
So you'll notice as the lifter is called up, they unrack the bar, walk it out, and then they're looking up at the judge, waiting for the down command.
And we'll see that become, the commands are imperative for the lifters to follow, and we'll see that become even more imperative as we get deeper and deeper into the night when we go specifically to the bench press, where we'll have a couple of dynamics. One, they can't physically see the judge. They'll have to go on audible commands, but at the same time, they'll be having to deal with the noise and everything going on. Could make for some very interesting scenarios with this packed house. As Calhoun at 155 gets 3 white lights, so she ups her number from 147.5 to 155.
And that one looked really strong for Sam there.
I would imagine she's still got more in the tank.
Oh, yeah.
As Sarah Zastrow will come on for her second lift opportunity.
And Sarah actually met today, and this is her second meet ever. So she's in the primetime session.
It is the second meet, a relative newcomer, as Coach Tucker Loken has brought her under his wing. She's got a number of people watching from the state of Wisconsin. She's got family, a church group, Badger Barbell Club. Zastrow trying to battle through it, can't do it, as she'll miss on her second attempt. So now, after missing on her first 2 opportunities, she's going to have to try to get a qualifying score, or else she could effectively be out of the competition.
And I hope she can put that together.
And I would imagine that from that standpoint, if you've missed your first 2 lifts, there's got to be an enormity of pressure on you to get a qualifying score on that third lift, where it's amplified how important that third lift is.
Oh, yeah. Those first lift jitters are still there, and it's just added pressure layered on.
Natalie Terrana, a 30-year-old out of Florida. We talked about Tirana just a moment ago. She collects shark teeth. We talk about the wide swath of personalities here. She collects shark teeth, and she knows all of the scientific names of seashells, which is fascinating that she would have the time to spend in the gym and know that.
I would never assume someone who collects shark teeth can squat 363 pounds.
Which she just did there. As she connects on her second lift, she's on the board at 165, as she got 3 white lights there in her second offering. And that'll bring up Kristin Dunsmore.
And Kristin Dunsmore is the current, I believe, the current American record holder for the squat for the 63 kilo class. So she may chip it if she's feeling good. Take another attempt at this American record and break her own. That would be a fun thing to see.
Well, and from the biographical information that I've got, she's already at 170 on the second attempt. So if there is a PR in the offing for her. I'm sure that she will be setting her sights on that after the second lift opportunity. The 28-year-old out of the Empire State is already connected at 157.5.
And it's looking like she might try it with the speed of that one.
So she gets 3 white lights there. She connects at 170, and that'll bring up Meghan Scanlon. As this is Scanlon's first national meet, as she was the Massachusetts State squat, bench, and total record holder at 63 kilograms. She also is the Massachusetts squat record at 72 kilos. As she's the owner of Foster Fitness Online, and we talk about the athleticism. Scanlon, no stranger to other sports. She's performed in 3 Ironman events as well as ran in 10 marathons.
Oh, wow. To come from endurance to powerlifting is quite a change.
Who said powerlifters don't like cardio? Scanlon at 172.5 on her second effort. Was able to battle through it, and that showed a considerable amount of resolve there.
A very short,
white lights.
A very short sticking point, but after I told you about Kristin Dunsmore's American record, it looks like Meghan might even try it herself. So,
well, and you talked about this leading up. There are a number of ladies that we're going to see in this primetime session this evening that are going to really take a run for it and try to get the gold this evening, and are really going to make life hard for Jennifer Thompson. Meg, I've got to be honest with you. I'm excited about what we're going to see in the next 3+ hours, because it is going to be something to behold. And we haven't even gotten to the men's side yet, and already there's some drama and some potential action really starting to ramp up, and I can imagine they may blow the roof off of this place when we get to the deadlifts. Kaitlyn Mendall, a 142.5 attempt. Still working through it. She cannot complete the third lift. She'll take a 140 kilo score into the bench press, as the 29-year-old from Massachusetts has completed her first discipline here at the 10th Annual USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals. Bridgette Zacharchenko missed on her second opportunity at 142.5, so she's going to try to make amends here on her third attempt at 142.5. A Connecticut state champion earlier this year, has a PhD in entomology from UConn.
Wow.
Zakharchenko cannot connect on her final lift, so she'll take 132 into the bench press segment, and that'll bring up Jennifer Thompson. Now, Meg, I would ask you this, because we see that already in second attempts, we've got a 170 already completed on the board, a 172.5. Right now, Thompson's sitting at 150. Now, for her, that might be where she needs to be. But for her doing this, as this is a record attempt for Thompson in the Masters 1, as far as it relates to the Open, this would probably tell you that she feels even stronger in the bench and the deadlift the next 2 events coming up.
Oh, yeah. Jen may be in the middle of the pack for the squat, but she will really show up for the bench, as she does every, and she's grinding. Wow.
She feels it.
Like
we'll
a pro.
see what the judges say. 3 white lights.
Nice.
She's on at 150.
That's exciting to see, because we've all been wondering about Jen and how she's doing. She didn't go to Worlds this year, so everyone's wondering what's wrong with her. She was having some, I believe, hip issues, just nagging pains that she's been needing to tend to for years, she said. And actually, I talked to her this morning, and she said she hasn't felt better. So that's why she put 330 pounds on the board with that last squat and grinded through it.
Well, and certainly she's going to be one of the staples here at an event like this. Everybody was looking forward to her being here when she's got 26 national titles and 32 World Open records. That's just a phenomenal resume. It's Abby Citrin, 150 kilos, and she looks like she's going to power through that. After missing on the second attempt, she gets 3 white lights, so she'll take 150 to the bench press.
extremely hard to miss an attempt and come back and make it, I think, especially in the squat.
Now, how much of a lift is it for a lifter emotionally when they do miss a lift and then come back and are able to make amends for it and do it in a way to where they had to overcome some adversity in that course of that lift? That was not an easy lift for her, and she was able to power through it and get a good number at 150 on the board. Can that carry a person through the bench press and into the deadlift with an added bit of wind behind their sail?
Oh yeah, I think when you get a little, you become an underdog, there's always going to be something that keeps you going through, and also some pressure that reminds you that you need to hit everything else and follow the plan that you set out.
Ewa Januszkiewicz at 157.5 after connecting at 140 and 150. As we are basically about halfway through this third attempt rotation in this women's primetime segment.
Come on, Ewa.
Still working.
Wow.
Now, for those that might not understand how a judge would rule something like that, they gave her 3 red lights there. What would have possibly been some of the things that a judge saw there, and they saw it unanimously, what would have been some of the things that they saw that might have red lighted that lift?
It looks like Ewa got red lights, and the judges gave her a red card for depth, so it looks like she just didn't get low enough. The hip crease needs to be below the knee crease. So if it's unanimous, then the lifter doesn't have an opportunity to contest that either. So unfortunately, she missed that one.
And when you've got 3 judges at the national level, they're not just folks that showed up on Tuesday and got a certification. These are legit officials in this event. Zastrow at 157 cannot connect on her 3rd attempt. So effectively, she can't get a qualifying score and any opportunity for her to medal or really compete in the overall standings have pretty much gone by the boards. An unfortunate circumstance to befall Zastrow here in the squat effort.
And unfortunately, for your second meet, that's not all uncommon to bomb out on the squat on your first few meets. So hopefully, you know, we'll see her come back next year and she'll be in prime time again and post the killer total.
I would imagine that for someone going through the nerves of being at a national level event anyway is one thing, but to have someone who is still a relative newcomer in the sport has to be amplified that much more, the amount of pressure that she experienced.
Wow. Sam Calhoun with an amazing grinder. I didn't think she was going to make it, to be honest. And she got 3 white lights.
3 white lights at 160, so that's the score she'll take into the bench press. As that will bring up Natalie Tirana. Enjoy doing some of the research as she's got watching at home. She's got a mom, fiance, dad. She's got a brother, a sister-in-law, Hadley, Hutton, Baby T. These people have tremendous followings in their locales, wherever they come from. And to bring them into a national setting, you really do, from all over the country, get to see truly the best of the best. And the thing about it, these folks that are watching, just because of their local hero in their area, they're getting a buffet, if you will, of powerlifting expertise. It's Tirana. At 155, 165 is what she connected on early. This attempt at 170. And she was on the way up with a smile on her face. She knew she nailed it.
So you can see this trio with Kristen, Calhoun, and Natalie. They're making the lifts, and they're going to keep it a fun meet. Once one of them misses one lift, that's going to tell you where the pack of 3 starts to break up, and we'll be able to tell who's going to come in what placing.
It'll be intriguing to see who actually blinks out of that grouping.
I hope I keep seeing made lifts, because that makes it a lot more fun to watch.
178 kilos will be an attempt for Kristin Dunsmore. And she's amped. The folks are on their feet. Their cell phones are out. An incredible scene here in the Continental Ballroom in Orlando.
And she unracks it looking pretty strong.
Dunsmore can't quite get there. So she'll take a score of 170 into the bench press after missing at 178. And now Meghan Scanlon will make an attempt at 180 kilos. We're talking about some high cotton here in the squat.
Oh yeah. To be nearing 400 pounds is pretty unbelievable.
All this coming up basically all before 9:05 in the evening here on the East Coast.
And you can see the crowd getting on their feet for some of these lifts, and I think it's just going to get more and more exciting.
Scanlon making an attempt at 180. Now, according to the numbers that I had, her previous personal best was at 172.5, which is what she just matched on her previous lift. So this, according to the numbers that I have, some relatively uncharted territory for Scanlon, the 29-year-old out of Massachusetts. Wow. We said that in unison. That tells you just how good it was.
Wow.
Three white lights. She's on the board at 180. Meghan, your thoughts?
That was amazing. She could have had another 2.5 kilos, I think, maybe even more.
I think you're right. That's like a field goal kicker hitting one from 60, and it could have gone from 65. She absolutely hammered it. You'll have to forgive me, Meghan. Sometimes I drop other sport references into the powerlifting, for better or for worse.
Well, I got to say, with the crowd in here, the energy, it really does sort of feel like, you know, you don't always see powerlifting meets like this. It looks like a football game or a boxing match or something that's people are going absolutely crazy.
But Meg, let's be honest. If you're at the elite level of powerlifting, this is exactly what you should come to expect, and it's exactly why you lift at this level to begin with. You want to see the sport grow as a whole, but you want to see events like this attended the way it is right now, and folks tuning in this evening with us. Yangsu Ren at 227.5 for his first lift. 3 white lights. He's on the board. As we now make the transition to the 83-kilo men. And while we're making that transition, folks, just want to let you know that A7 is a proud sponsor of the USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals. Follow A7 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or log on to www.a7intl.com. That's www.a7intl.com. As Mitchell Deskus is up second here in this opening rotation of attempts here in Orlando, Florida. Deskus out of the state of Texas at 242.5. He gets 2 out of 3 white lights, so he's on the board with his opener. Deskus, out of the state of Texas, owns a private studio in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Actually, his father was a lifter in the 80s, so a second-generation lifter here is Mitchell Deskus.
I wonder when he started lifting. Maybe age 8.
Well, it could have been, and that's the thing about it. A recent state champion in Texas in the event that was held in Houston. So Deskus, I would imagine that his father probably took down some local and regional hardware, and he's looking to do much the same thing. It's Orion Bay Lark, the 29-year-old out of Kansas, at 245 with his opener. He's on the board. Marcus Adudu, a 22-year-old out of the state of North Carolina.
I got to talk to Marcus and meet him today for the first time. And he's sort of a newbie to definitely to Primetime, a newbie to USA Powerlifting. So it's exciting to see some of these younger lifters out here lifting with the pros.
He is a North Carolina State record holder in the squat, the deadlift, and as a total number. He owns the record of that as well at 83 kilos. Adudu engages his first lift. 247.5 seemed very little problem there.
Looking like a good opener.
2 out of 3 white lights, so he's on the board. As that will bring up Cody Jaeger. Now we talked about the personalities that are here at this 10th annual USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals. Jaeger, no different. This young man is a cybersecurity engineer. I don't even really know what that is, but you got to be incredibly smart and gifted to be one.
Oh yeah, I think you'll notice powerlifters, they like numbers, they like percentages, and they tend to be usually smart people.
Very cerebral, without question, is Jaeger. An opening lift of 252.5, the 23-year-old. He seemed to make light work of that as the bar basically just sort of bent on him, and he was unfazed as he connects there at 262.5, so he's got a qualifying score, and that'll bring up John Downing. John Downing, the coach of the Ohio State University powerlifting team, whose men are the back-to-back world champions. The women recently won the 2017 World Championships as they won the 83 kilo in the juniors in 2012 and was the Arnold winner at 83 kilos back in 2015. So John Downing, out of the state of Ohio, Columbus to be exact. His first attempt at 255. 2 out of 3 white lights, so he's on the board at 255. That'll bring up Charlie Dixon, the 22-year-old out of the state of Virginia. Pursuing a doctorate in physical therapy at Radford University. His first attempt at 257.5. A 2014 sub-junior first place finish. We'll see what the judges say. 3 white lights. He has a qualifying lift at 257.5.
So far, it looks like all the 83 men are taking some smart attempts, getting on the board, so that they can have some fun for their second and thirds.
That'll bring up Shawn Noriega. Megan, in the chatter that I heard from other lifters and folks that were here watching as soon as I stepped off the plane on Tuesday, one of the names that popped up specifically on the men's side was Shawn Noriega, and this guy's already getting a little bit of buzz here inside the arena for his first lift as he's starting out at 265, which is almost 585 pounds. So what is almost 2 NFL offensive linemen on his back.
Wow.
He performs a squat, and his opener gets 2 out of 3 white lights, so he's on the board.
You're going to see a little bit of a battle. There is a coach, Joey Flex, back there who has Shawn Noriega as an athlete, and Russ Lowell is his name on Instagram, another Instagram friend of mine who is new to nationals this year but ranked to win. So highest entry total is from Russel Orhii, I believe his last name is. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a battle among teammates there, which will be fun to pay attention to.
Dexter Jones is up next. His attempt will be at 265, a 2-time Ohio State champion and a top 3 in the 83 kilos at the 2016 Raw Nationals last year. watching this evening. Dexter Jones is Beyond Limits Training as well as Central High School in Columbus, Ohio.
We've got a couple of strong lifters from Ohio, and I'm from Ohio, so
now, Meg, I've got to ask, what part of Ohio?
I grew up in Akron.
Okay. All right. Dexter Jones, as the place goes silent for just a moment.
There he goes.
And he connects, I believe, at 265. We'll see what the judges say. 2 out of 3 white lights. He's on at 265.
So Dexter approached the bar, and I think he forgot to clasp his belt there for a second, almost as he unracked. But he still had time to take his time, reset himself, reset mentally, clip the belt, put it on, and then have a successful lift. I actually did that today myself. Takes a little bit of skill to have a little bit of a mistake and know that you have enough time to get your composure and get it together.
And I would imagine the first instinct when something like that occurs is you want to rush and you want to panic.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Most cases, it's not necessary to have to do that.
You'd be surprised how long 1 minute is. And this is Russel Orhii, who I was talking about.
The 22-year-old out of the state of Texas.
And he's got the highest entry total of the 83s this year.
And Russ Lowell he is, as he is found on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. The former walk-on at Texas Tech in football connects with that lift at 282.5. Mercy. I don't know if this is part of his training regimen or whatever, but biographically, he loves pancakes.
Oh, yeah. He's known. Apparently, people send him pictures and videos of them flipping pancakes. It's a Russ Lowell meme.
Well, and as we get deeper into this evening, we'll talk about powerlifting now in the 21st century and how it really is affected by the internet, by social media, and certainly you have taken full advantage of that and advancing your career. As Yangsu Ren in his second attempt connected at 227.5 earlier. He misses at 240 here on a second attempt.
Usually when a lifter misses an attempt on their second or even their first, they will typically repeat the lift. That's usually their recommended suggestion. But when you see these primetime lifters and they're going for things and they're taking some risks, taking some calculated risks hopefully, they may take a jump after that. So it'll be interesting to see the next attempt and see if he jumps or tries the same weight again.
So Mitchell Deskus will be coming on for his second attempt. Connected at 242.5 on his first go-round. Now here at 255. Deskus completes the lift. We'll see what the judges have to say about that 255 attempt. 2 out of 3 white lights there, so he's on at 255. And Meg, I'm not a connoisseur of facial hair by any stretch of the imagination. I know that it was approaching 90 degrees the last 3 days in Orlando. That's got to be incredibly brutal on facial hair. Not that you would know from experience, but I'm just sort of speculating. The last few days must have been rough on the facial hair of Mr. Mitchell Deskus after completing his day's work in preparation for his lifts tonight.
Well, hopefully he's been staying in the nice air conditioning we have in this awesome conference room.
Yes, it's not 90 degrees in here, that's for sure. Orion Bay Lark, his second attempt, 257.5. 3 white lights, so he's on the board. Bay Lark out of the state of Kansas, connecting at 257.5. As Marcus Adudu will be on for his second attempt.
And we've got Marcus's on Instagram, Muscleman Marcus. And you can see his quads. I think the name checks out.
247.5 was his first lift. He connected there. 262.5 now will be his second offering.
Wow, and he gets really deep.
And I guess at some point, I mean, he gets 3 white lights there. For some folks, going too deep would be very detrimental to completing the lift because there's just too much room to have to make up and getting back to the top. For him, didn't seem to really be much of an issue.
No, I think some lifters will just hold themselves to a pretty good depth in training, and so when they get on the platform, it's not a thing. I think you can overdo it definitely, but if you're used to it in training and you bring it on the platform, then you should be good.
Well, certainly those watching back home, Auntie Mac, Brian, 106.3B, and the Strive Gym along with his mom, very impressed by Mr. Adudu here in the early going. It's Cody Jaeger on for his second attempt, this one at 265. Oh. And Jaeger.
Good catch by the spotters.
Jaeger will not complete that lift, as he actually lost the handle and it rolled down his back. Again, talking about the importance of the spotters and the loaders doing their job there. The first priority for those spotters is the safety of the lifters, and that's one of those cases there. If they weren't minding their P's and Q's, that could have been a very detrimental circumstance for Jaeger. That'll bring up John Downing, who connected at 255 his first go-round. He'll be making an attempt of 267.5. Downing has actually started a not-for-profit called Lift for Life. It is a nonprofit designed to encourage and increase the love of powerlifting for low-income lifters as well as folks in at-risk communities around the world, as he and several other lifters have gone as far as the continent of Africa to promote the message of lifting for life. So again, we talk about just how strong physically these people are, just how strong mentally they are, but then their ability to give back to their local communities, and then in some cases worldwide. Much to be commended out of this grouping here tonight.
And you'll find that once you like to get strong, you want everyone else to like it too. So it's kind of addicting that way.
Downing engages in his second attempt. Seems simple enough. 3 white lights. 267.5 is his second score. Charlie Dixon on for his second attempt. As Dixon connected at 257.5. He'll be making an attempt here, 272.5. In the 2015 Raw Nationals, a third place finish. And the 2016 Arnold Pro Raw, he was a first place finisher. So Dixon developing quite the resume here at a very young age. And Dixon, that looked really smooth.
Looks like he has a lot more room to go for a third.
And to that end, I mean, is there a significant level of importance in rhythm when it comes to squatting?
Oh yeah, I think you gotta, the idea is to make every rep exactly the same. Obviously when there's more weight on the bar, it's gonna slow down a little bit, but you never wanna get caught in a sticking point and stay there for a while. You want it to be smooth, and you want it to slow down because it's heavy, but you want it to keep moving.
Well, for Dixon there, it couldn't have gotten really any smoother for that weight. So Dixon takes his second score of 272.5. Now Shawn Noriega at 275. So Noriega will put it on the rack. The judges say he missed on the wings. 2-1 red lights as both wing judges determined that that lift was not a good one. The central official was satisfied with the lift. So he will miss out on his second opportunity at 275. He'll keep a 265 with him. And that'll bring up Dexter Jones, who'll be making an attempt of 277 and a half.
Come on, Dexter, 6'11". On deck is Russell.
Almost 612 pounds is the second attempt here for Dexter Jones. And according to my numbers, his previous best was 275, so if he connects here, he has a new personal best. And it looks like we've got a new personal best. And I would imagine, and he does not. The two wing officials
called on depth. The judges are going to be strict regardless. Competing in USA powerlifting, the judges are going to hold you to a really high standard. So you have to show up and you have to hit depth and you have to make sure that you're following the commands and everything's really on point. They're not going to give it to you if it's not perfect. So unfortunately, sometimes you'll see lifters make their lifts, but then get called for something, unfortunately, and it's not counted towards their total. So.
Well, and to that end, you should expect a higher level of scrutiny when you're at a national or international style event.
All right, we got Russ Lowell out.
292 and a half, which in my mind would certainly qualify for Russ Lowell.
Oh yeah, and you see the crowd is on their feet.
There's no question the lifters that in the fans' mind that they've come to see. Wow.
Wow. And he is just so focused too.
Three white lights. Meg, is there a possibility we may see a 300-kilo attempt coming up?
I'm thinking it's going to happen. With the speed of that, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes even a little higher.
I mean, you know, I'm certainly nobody's coach. I mean, Russell right now is getting ready to try. Let's see. Russell's getting ready to look to attempt 300.5.
It looks like that's his next attempt.
So he will make an attempt at over 300 right now. Yangsu Ren. 240. Missed on his second attempt.
And came back. And he looks like he's pretty happy.
A good level of composure there for Ren as he connects at 240. And now Orion Bay Lark will come on at 260. He connected at 257 and a half on his previous lift.
And Ryan's being coached and handled by Bonica Lau, who is an amazing female powerlifter. And it'll be exciting to watch her compete later this week.
That's amazing, the really tight circles, both on the men's and the women's side. These lifters that have put together strong resumes and are very well respected in the sport, they do follow each other and support one another, especially at national competition. Bay Lark worked through it. We'll see what the judges say. 2 out of 3 white lights, so he's on at 260. And Bonica, a very accomplished lifter in her own right.
Oh yes, one of the most decorated powerlifters lifting today. She's just amazing, and she also competes in both Raw and on the equipped division. So she does it all.
And at some point tonight, we may even try to engage, especially as we get into our bench press segment, the difference between Raw and equipped lifting. As I was able to cover an equipped event back here in the same venue earlier in the year. And now I'm back here for the Raw event, the 10th annual USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals from the Continental Ballroom here at the Orlando Hyatt International Airport. So glad that you could join us. Here with Meg Gallagher, Brian Rushing here, as Mitchell Deskus, who connected at 242.5, 255, will now make an attempt at 265. Two out of three white lights, so he'll take that number with him into the bench press, a 265 kilo squat.
And for the squat on the third, you want to give it something good, but realize that you still have 3 attempts on the bench and 3 attempts on the deadlift, so you don't want to completely burn yourself out, knowing that you still got to lift the rest of the meet and save something for the other lifts.
Right, and that would be especially applicable for somebody that, well, in all honesty, is a far better deadlifter than they are someone who's performing a squat. Now, if you're a squat guy, you're going to try to make up as much ground here in the early going as possible.
Exactly.
It's Cody Jagger, who missed at 265 a moment ago, will try to redeem himself here at 265 on his final offering. We'll see what the judges have to say, but
looked good.
It looked good indeed. 3 white lights, so he's got a 265 that he'll carry with him.
Again, there he had a little bit of a hard time initially unracking the bar, but was able to compose himself and come back from it and just get it done.
Now, Meg, one of the questions that I would ask is, a person is preparing for a national or internet or any competition, really. As you go through your training, there are a lot of variables that will play into what sort of program you work as far as the 3 attempts that you have in the various disciplines. Are you coming back from an injury? Have you had a setback in your training? Or are you in a position to where, simply put, you're going to try something new and therefore you're going to try to employ it into your program?
From all of these lifters, they're all going to be different in regards to strengths and weaknesses, and their programs, although they're all working on the squat, bench, and deadlift, are going to vary immensely. So they're all programming and all coaching looks completely different.
Downing connected at 255 and 267.5 respectively. This attempt at 275. He cannot connect there, so he'll be at 267.5 to go into the bench press. And that will bring up Marcus Adudu. He'll be making an attempt at 277.5. His previous one was at 262.5.
Let's see if Muscle Man Marcus can get this lift. Finally get him in the 600s for this meet.
It's Adudu with his 3rd attempt here, as we're getting toward the tail end of the 3rd attempted rotation here on the men's side at 83 kilos. As soon as we're done here with this 3rd rotation, we'll go into the bench press. He powered through.
And 3 white lights.
So he qualifies now at 277.5. You know, it really is, I mean, to a novice lifter, first of all, a novice lifter really wouldn't try anything like some of the weights that you're seeing being pushed around out here tonight. But the will, the desire, and even the technical ability to make adjustments mid-lift even really separates the gold in this room from the chaff hanging out at the run-of-the-mill gym down the street.
Exactly, and it's really a full-time job, focusing on your lifting and your recovery and everything else that has to do with being a great lifter.
Shawn Noriega, an obvious fan favorite, 280 will be this attempt. And Noriega can't complete it. He'll take 265 with him as he missed his final 2 offerings. And a certain level of frustration from Noriega as he was not able to complete his final 2 lifts in the squat opportunity. So Charlie Dixon will come on with his 3rd opportunity, 285 kilos. will be Dixon's third attempt.
285 kilos.
And Dixon at 285, his previous personal best was 280. So if he connects here, he'll have a new personal best, which you mentioned once before already, that this is going to be commonplace, that you're going to have folks here that at a national level event are not only seeking a medal opportunity, but they're going to try to tack on some PRs as well as go 9 for 9. So 3 for 3 in his opening segment.
And he's looking pretty psyched with his coach.
A personal best at 285.
That's always fun to see when a lifter makes a hard third and they get off the platform and they're just, that feeling is just amazing.
It's Dexter Jones will make an attempt at 287.5 after missing at 277.5. Now, Meg, when a person puts a program together and they're going to attempt a PR at a national level event, is it one of those things to where they come in from their training confident that they're going to be able to make that lift, or is it one of those things to where, you know, maybe I'm reaching a little bit, but I'm going to give it a shot, especially if my first 2 lifts go as planned?
There are always going to be some nerves that come with something that you've never done before. So there's always this kind of, you know, aura of uncertainty, but knowing that you've lifted and you've trained hard and put all the work into it and finally hit a taper to where you're recovered, that's going to put everything together to make you hit a PR.
Dexter Jones, 287.5. Cannot connect on his final opportunity, so he'll take a 265 with him. And now, Russel Orhii, 300.5 kilos for this final attempt here in the squat segment.
And Russ is attempting 300.5. Usually lifters can only make jumps in 2.5 kilos, but since this is a record, he's able to chip it by a half kilo. And he can get a little more specific with his attempt.
And if he hits this lift, this place might just explode.
I can't even see. We got to stand up because everyone's on their seat. Everyone's got their phones out trying to get a piece of this record attempt.
I mean, we've got people that are coming in through the door to see this now. People standing on chairs. $662.5 pounds. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
We'll see what the judges have to say. 2 out of 3. He's on the board at 301.5 kilos.
And whenever a lifter hits a record, you give a few handshakes to the judges who gave you the white lights for it. And of course, the hug to the coach who made it all happen.
And we're only one discipline in. Meg, what could possibly be left out of tonight's action?
I'm going to tell you, I'm excited for bench, especially because we get to watch Jennifer Thompson bench press. And who knows, there could be a record that she's going to hit very soon. And then deadlifts make it even more exciting.
Want to thank bodybuilding.com, as bodybuilding.com is a part of the 2017 USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals as the official broadcast home for this week's event. Find them online at www.bodybuilding.com/USAPL. That's www.bodybuilding.com/USAPL. For all of you tuning in this evening, we welcome you to the Continental Ballroom here at the Hyatt Orlando International Airport for the 10th annual USA Powerlifting Raw National Championships. Brian Rushing here along with Meg Gallagher. Meg, since we've got a moment as they begin to set the stage for the bench press, give us some of your initial thoughts by what it is that you saw from the bench press and what you think it could translate to going into the final two disciplines, as it looks like every competition is going to be hotly contested and there's no givens on this evening.
I got to say, as far as judging goes, it is a little bit, you know, the judges are highly involved. You got to listen to the commands. Today when I was lifting, the commands weren't too bad. Sometimes you'll get judges who will make you hold it on your chest because you have to wait for the press command while it's touching your chest. It wasn't too bad. I was getting those commands pretty quickly, and I hope to see it so that we can see some big lifts today and see all of our lifters make those lifts.
Now, a couple of things that I want to talk to you about as we get into the bench press segment. We talk about in the squat. The squat is a really good exhibition of just power and strength and just gravitas. You take a look at the deadlift, and of course that's another example of strength and power. But there's a technical aspect that is in addition to the strength and the power that comes from the bench press. Give us some of your thoughts on those technical aspects that are so very important, because you can't overlook the bench press. You can't win an event with the bench press, but you could sure lose an event with the bench press.
Exactly. And the margin of error for the bench press is going to be a lot higher than these other lifts. Your range of motion is shorter. You need to be more precise. You need to listen to more commands. And so you just got to make sure everything's on point so you don't miss groove, so you don't get stuck on the chest, and so you make the lift.
So where there is a level of focus and intensity that is required at any of the disciplines here this evening, there has to be a heightened awareness. There has to be a heightened focus when it comes to the bench press, even though we're not seeing the same kind of weights being thrown around or anything of that nature, and maybe it's not necessarily the most glamorous of the three disciplines, but it really can separate a lot of these lifters from the rest of the pack just by putting up a really solid number in preparation for the deadlift.
And that's where you'll see Jen Thompson, you know, maybe in the middle of the pack in some meets for her in her squat, and then she just breaks away and blows everyone out of the water. Hate to say it, blows everyone out of the water on the bench press because it's so high and it's so amazing. For a long time, she's been just untouchable, and now you start to see our pack of three, Sam Calhoun, Natalie Tirana, and Kristin Dunsmore, coming, you know, creeping along the way to sort of remind us other mortal powerlifters that there is a little bit of chance to keep growing into the bench press. But for so long, Jen has just been this kind of, you know, she's just been such an anomaly, and she's just had such a lead. So I talked to her earlier today, and she's excited that, you know, that these three are giving her some competition. I think she's still really confident, but you know, she wants the sport to grow, and she loves to see strong women out there making it fun to watch.
Well, and I'm going to segue out of watching the sport grow. Certainly you have developed quite a following on social media through what it is that you're doing in powerlifting, and you are really on the leading edge as it comes to the sport, to really developing things on YouTube and on the other social mediums, and as far as driving the branding of Meg Gallagher. Now, 30 years ago, this was something that just simply was not part of it. They didn't dream of having this type of setup. They didn't dream of having these kinds of venues. A lot has changed in the better part of 30 years. For the individual lifters and for the lifeblood of the sport itself, how important is it to continue the production value that Dr. Trey Cunningham and everyone does here with the video internet broadcast, and then for the lifters individually, branding themselves through social media? How important is that for today's lifter in the 21st century?
Well, you'll see a lot of the fans here are lifters themselves. A ton of people watching, tuning into the live stream are you know, wanting to compete at nationals, wanting to compete in primetime at a spot like this. A lot of them are looking up to the people on the platform today, and they want to know everything that they do. They want to know what their nutrition looks like, what their training looks like, and so it is important to share your ideas and grow the strength of the sport. That way we can pick our favorite lifters and know a little bit more about them. We all want to continue to be fans of the sport and cheer on our favorites. So that's what we get to do, and it's awesome that we have people putting themselves out there and putting their lifts out there to encourage other lifters to join the sport.
Zakharchenko with the opening lift here in the bench press segment for the ladies at 63 kilos. 3 white lights there, so she's on the board, and that'll bring up Sarah Zastrow. Now, Meg, we mentioned earlier that Sarah Zastrow now is not going to be able to compete for any medals or anything after having not completed a qualifying attempt in the squat. Now with Zastrow, from this perspective, what are some of the things that she should be keying on with her final 6 lifts that she has this evening?
You know, maybe Zastrow came out and had a number in mind that she wanted to make and set that goal, and, you know, unfortunately it didn't work out. But now she still has 3 attempts at the bench, 3 attempts at the deadlift, so she might as well go out and have some fun and just hit those lifts.
So Zastrow with her first attempt at 70 kilos, the 22-year-old out of Wisconsin. Will connect on that lift, 3 white lights.
And maybe, you know, she didn't put a squat on the board, but maybe she can go home with a little bench PR or get a new weight in her hands that she hasn't had before. So hopefully we see something like that happen.
Abby Citrin will come on. 72.5 kilos will be this opener for Citrin. Now, we see Abby talking to the spotter directly behind the bar. The question that I have for you, Meg, is what are some of the conversations that are being had there between the lifter? Why would the lifter even have anything to say to the spotter in that circumstance?
So the middle spotter is going to lift off the bench press bar so that Abby can get it out to where she wants it to be to start her bench press, to receive the bench command, or the start command, rather. So she's pretty much just saying, I'm going to take it on 3 so that the spotter knows. You'll have lifters count up to 3 or down from 3 usually. It's not too complicated, but it's important to be communicative with who's giving you your lift off, just like in the meet as you would in the gym. So you want to make sure that you're on the same page so that you get that barbell where you want it to receive your first command.
So Citrin connects at 72.5 on her initial lift. And that'll bring up Ewa Januszkiewicz at a 75 kilo attempt here in her openers. So I would imagine that much like the relationship of a center in football with the quarterback, the handoff between the spotter and the lifter is essentially the start of the play, and without a good handoff, the play really comes crumbling down.
I won't disagree with that analogy.
Januszkiewicz with her first attempt at 75 kilos. We'll bring it back to the rack. We'll see what the judges have to say. 3 white lights. So she's on the board at 75 kilos. That'll bring up Natalie Tirana. Now, Meg, over here in the shot, we see Tirana, you know, chalking up, and certainly the coach there, Arian Kamizi, is taking off the headphones and things. What are some of the things that are going on behind the walls for the lifters as they're in between each discipline throughout the contest?
It's a lot of sitting, to be honest. You want to sit and chill out and leave your intensity for the platform.
Tirana completes the lift, 82.5 kilos. She connects there. So it seems like that there's a lot of ebb and flow in the middle of a discipline to where you're really spiking, you're really peaking when it comes to things like blood pressure, intensity, effort, so on and so forth. But once you get behind that wall, you really begin to de-escalate and just sort of save the juice for the lift itself.
Exactly. You know, we started maybe an hour ago with some of the first squats, and we're just on the first bench. So you might be, you know, completing a meet for a few hours, and you want to make sure that you're save your energy for deadlifts too, so that you're not completely gassed after the first 2 lifts. You got 9 attempts, so you want to make sure that you're bringing everything you got for those 9.
So Kaitlyn Mendall, a 29-year-old out of Massachusetts, for her first bench attempt at 87.5. She connects 3 white lights there.
And so far, so good for all the 63s. I'm seeing a lot of greens. It's what we want to see for openers.
Kaitlyn Mendall watching back home, Mom, Dad, John, Bonnie, Victoria. I'd say a good portion of the state of Massachusetts, and certainly some folks in the Tidewater area. Dom Razzo in the Dynamis Alliance. As Mendall, a board-certified behavioral analyst, as Kristin Dunsmore will step to the platform. An attempt of 92.5 for her opener on the bench.
Under the tutelage of Chad Wesley Smith, Juggernaut. Chad Wesley Smith, Juggernaut, this is good.
Dunsmore connects with her first lift. She's on the board at 92.5, and that'll bring up Meghan Scanlon. Scanlon put together a very solid number in the squat. She was at 180 out of the squat segment. Now is going to start at 95.
Kilos, 209.4 pounds, opening bench, Meghan Scanlon.
Scanlon gets the command, engages the lift.
She's got a nice arch for a little short range of motion. That'll definitely come in handy as we keep adding more weight on the bar.
She gets 3 white lights there. So that'll bring up Samantha Calhoun. And we talked about before the competition on the bench got started about how technical this discipline was. I mean, there's a lot going into these types of lifts. Where you place the bar on your chest, the line that you're creating from going to your chest to the rack. As we carry on, Meg, give us an idea of what are some of the key points for any bench press athlete in the course of their lift. As Calhoun gets 3 white lights there at 95, what are some of the important keys in making sure that you're able to lift as much weight as possible as efficiently as possible?
Well, it's all about control, and you want to make sure that you have a controlled descent on the way down. You don't want the bar to go too fast down so that you lose control, and then you want to keep it tight on the chest. And Jen Thompson gave me this cue to stay tight on the chest so that you can press whenever you get that command and explode off the chest and push back, sort of up and back into that rack.
Thompson's first attempt at 125 kilos.
And we're already seeing the cell phones out to take videos, even on the opener for Jen
Nobody
Thompson.
has attempted anything over 100 yet, and Thompson on the bench with her first opportunity, 125. And she misses.
And she went back too far. She didn't wait for her rack command. So I'm hoping that Jen comes back and takes a little jump so that she can follow whatever plan she has set for herself. Not sure what happened there. You know, she's a pro, so maybe something didn't feel right, but let's.
Well, I'm not quite sure this is what the judges saw, but there might have been a possibility there. I thought maybe I saw her head come actually off of the bench itself. Now, I could have completely missed that.
No, maybe you're right. Maybe I missed it.
Sarah Zastrow on her second attempt, connected at 70 earlier, now goes to 72.5. Zastrow, a student at the University of Wisconsin, so of course she says on Wisconsin. 72.5 kilos, 3 white lights. So now she's building some momentum, and hopefully she can take some positives out of the remainder of her competition, as she's already at 72.5 in this her second competition, which is amazing. I mean, it kind of gives you an idea of just what the ceiling might be for her, given that she's already in a national competition performing at a primetime level, and she's still relatively green to the sport.
It really makes you wonder how many girls like Sarah are out there just waiting to find powerlifting.
Well, and it makes you wonder who's watching who will now begin to engage the sport themselves, as every person here is at least locally an ambassador for the sport. Zakharchenko still fighting. She'll put it on the rack. We'll see what the judges say. 3 white lights. So she's on at 75. So we're here in Orlando, Florida. Meg, I would imagine you and everyone in the room already beginning to at least mentally put away this time of the year for 2018 as we'll be in Spokane, Washington, some 2,700 miles away from here.
Yep.
As we'll be in the great Northwest this time next year.
There's no Disney World like there is in Orlando, but
there's
there will
also
be
no
some
90-degree
powerlifting.
temperatures in Spokane, Washington this time of the year either. Abby Citrin, her lift attempt at 77.5. 3 white lights, so she's on. She's 2 for 2 in the bench press, going from 72.5 to 77.5.
Ewa Januszkiewicz, Connecticut, 26, 176.4
So Ewa Januszkiewicz connected at 75 on the first lift. Will go to 80 on her second attempt. Januszkiewicz took 150, I think, if my numbers are right there, from the squats. She has family in Connecticut watching. A clinical research coordinator. Some incredibly cerebral folks performing on this Thursday night primetime edition. So glad that you're with us wherever you are this evening. And there are numbers of you that are out there checking out the action this evening. So Januszkiewicz is on the board at 80 kilos. She's 2 for 2 now in the bench. She gets 3 white lights.
So usually when we start to see like a slower second, that's when maybe Ewa is going to take just a small jump to continue to build her total. Last time she took a 5 kilo jump, so maybe for her third we'll see just a 2.5 kilo chip there and try to just keep building and make as many lifts as we can and build the total and try to bring, you know, just keep inching forward to maybe a total PR there.
Tirana coming on for her second attempt, 87.5 kilos, connected at 82.5 earlier. Tirana cannot complete the lift as she'll carry the 82.5 into her third attempt. We'll see what happens on her third rotation here in just a bit as Kaitlyn Mendall will step up. Meg, as we continue to develop along in the bench press, I would imagine that anyone that had any idea that you were going to be on presenting color analysis this evening, I would imagine your phone has probably been blowing up for this this entire hour plus. May give you an opportunity to see what some of the thoughts are of folks as you are making your 2017 Raw Nationals debut in the color analyst chair. It's Mendall at 92.5.
All right, Kaitlyn, nice and smooth.
3 white lights, so she's in at 92.5. We've had some really good color analysts throughout the 4 sessions that I've worked. We've had David Garcia, who performed earlier this evening. He performed yesterday morning with me. Then, of course, we had Dennis Cherry with me last night. We had Heather Connor with me on Tuesday night, as we've had a lot of very knowledgeable, solid color analysts, and it's good to add you to the fold here in this 2017 Raw Nationals. So Samantha Calhoun, 97.5, gets 3 white lights, so she's 2 for 2.
Looks like Sam has a couple more kilos in her, maybe even more. So maybe she did a 5 kilo jump there, and maybe we'll see if she'll do another 5 kilo jump with her next entry.
Kristin Dunsmore coming on, 92.5 is where she is making an attempt now of 97.5. And I don't want to spoil what's coming up in just a little bit, but you want to talk about some high cotton going to be attempted in the second offering. We'll talk about that here in just a moment as the numbers continue to rise here in the second rotation of attempts on the bench press. Dunsmore, 97.5 is the attempt. She's there. 97.5 will be her number. She gets 3 white lights here in the 63 kilo division.
Kristin doing a nice job there of staying really tight on the chest, making sure that that bar is not moving so that she can get that press command right away.
And from essentially what I understand there, Meg, is the judge is waiting for the bar to become perfectly still so they can then give the command. And the longer that you have to hold the weight, the more it's going to take out of you. So you want to get that thing as still as you possibly can so that you can get that positive command and go right into the lift.
Exactly.
Without any needless energy being expended. Scanlon at 102.5. See what the judges say. Look good from here. It is good. She's 3 white lights, so she's on at 102.5.
I think everyone might be jealous of her range of motion there. I know I definitely am. It's pretty amazing.
Jennifer Thompson missed at 125, is making an attempt at 140.
She's looking psyched, and it looks like we should maybe stand up for.
Well, everybody else
Thompson
is going to, so we probably should also. 140 kilos is the best the best make we've had yet. Has been at 102.5.
It looks like she will set herself up to be on track for another big third.
So this place has gone quiet. We'll see if there was any downward movement on the right side. There was not. She's on at 140.
I couldn't quite see from our angle if she was running into the rack there. Not sure if anybody saw another angle, but it looked like she might have been running into the rack a little bit on the right side. But hey, she got it. You can still hit the rack. It's just that the judges cannot, if it looks like the rack is helping you get the bar up, that's when the judges can give you a red light and call it a no lift.
And in a situation like that, if there was something like that going on, you would have likely seen a split decision. But for it to be unanimous, it seems like everybody from their vantage point saw that she was, in fact, if she wasn't on the upright, she wasn't allowing it to be used to guide her back to the rack.
Right, and she's a pro, so I trust whatever she did is probably good to go. And an easy third for Sarah.
It's an incredible number from Thompson as Zastrow goes 3 for 3 in the bench. She takes 77.5, or I should say 75 with her into her third discipline, the deadlift, coming up in just a little bit. And since we're talking, excuse me, Meg, since we're talking about the bench press, this segment of the 2017 USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals is brought to you by Sling Shot. Find out more at www.howmuchyoubench.net. That's www.howmuchyoubench.net. Zakharchenko will make an attempt at 77.5.
While we're rating here, just some housekeeping. You can see on the bench it looks like there's some chalk on the bench. Usually you'll see lifters put chalk on their backs where they make contact with the bench press just to hold themselves and stop themselves from sliding on that bench press. When you're getting into that arch and pressing in with your feet and trying to initiate that leg drive, you know you can, if you're not secure on the bench there, you might slide a little bit. So lifters, they'll throw some chalk on their back and make sure that they're staying tight and steady there.
And it probably covers two aspects. I mean, certainly you don't want to slip in the middle of the lift. It could cause you to pick up a red light in a spot that you really don't need to. But at the same time, it could also create an injury scenario to where if you're sliding and it creates you to contort your body in such a way that you're just simply not used to, it could really harm a lifter during the course of the action. Zacharchenko will be the one on the platform here in just a moment. She'll make an attempt at 77.5. Meg, not that I necessarily want to put you on the spot, but since we've got a moment, I didn't know if you'd heard from any of your folks out in the social mediums as to what it is that they're saying about this evening's competition and your premier in the color analyst chair.
I'm going to have to check and see if I'm getting any, if anybody can hear me. give me something to talk about.
Zacharchenko now on the platform will make her third attempt. She connected at 70 and 75. And at 77.5, she'll make her third effort. So we're just getting started with the third attempted rotation. Zacharchenko brings it back to the rack.
I'm getting a couple of messages. I'm seeing at Lift Heavy Lens, seeing a lot of nice comments. I'm thinking I'm doing okay on the color commentary, I hope.
2 out of 3 white lights there for Zacharchenko as she takes 77.5 with her into the deadlift.
If anybody wants to shoot me a comment, let me know who you think is gonna, what do you think the placing is gonna be in these 63 kilo primetime lifters? I know there were a lot of great 63 kilo lifters lifting earlier today who maybe didn't enter with a primetime total, but showed up at nationals and hit some big lifts. So we'll see what the podium looks like.
Citrin still working. She gets it to the top. An 80 kilo attempt. We'll see what the judges say. She's on the board at 80 as she had 3 successful lifts there.
And she was definitely feeding off the crowd as they were yelling at her to get that one up. So that's always fun to see. And when you're cheering for someone like that and they get the lift, it's kind of a good feeling to be out there and feel like, you know, we did it together. It's an individual sport, but screaming and yelling at your favorite lifters is definitely an enjoyable thing to do.
Well, the spectators that make this sport up are what really feed an extra level of energy. And you've got competitors that are cheering for one another. I know that this is not a perfect scenario, but there's not a lot of animus between lifters as they portray themselves publicly out here. Januszkiewicz cannot connect on her third lift. She'll take 80 kilos onto the deadlift. And that'll bring up Natalie Tirana. Tirana connected at 82.5 her first go round. Missed at 87.5 and will try to make amends here on her third opportunity. Tirana competing this year after some setbacks physically, having to overcome some of those. And I would imagine, Meg, that an injury, a surgery, something of that nature can really derail your training and make events like this almost an impossibility as Tirana powers through.
Wow.
We'll see what they say.
You could see her fighting for every inch there. Unfortunately, she didn't get it. That's a shame when you see the grind and you want her to get it so bad, but just wasn't there.
She'll take 82.5 with her into the deadlift, as that will bring up Kaitlyn Mendall.
I'm getting some feedback from on social media. We got Dizzle Dicey with her predictions. She's thinking top 5 are Jen, Meg, Natalie, Kristen, Sam. So we'll see. We'll see if Dizzle Dicey is right. Dicey Sailor, who competed yesterday, last night's primetime session.
She was very, very impressive in last night's primetime session. She quickly became a fan favorite last night, and I thought she had an incredible outing last evening. As Mendall at 95 kilos, look to finish up. She gets 3 white lights, so she's 3 for 3 on the bench. She'll take 95 with her into the deadlift. Meg, I'm pretty sure that you were probably, since you had the morning session to perform in this morning, missed a lot of the primetime segment. There was a Taylor Atwell that came here last night that was absolutely a showstopper. Put together some amazing numbers and did it with perfectly coiffed hair, mind you. Samantha Calhoun, her third attempt at 102.5. Brings it to the top.
And 3 white lights. She needed that. She needed that to kind of lock. And I'm interested to see what the subtotals are here. Maybe we can take a look after bench is done and kind of make new predictions.
Well, I'm looking at the subtotal right now for Calhoun. She's taking a 262.5 with her into the deadlift. Right now, Jen Thompson is on top at 290, I think is what I see. Scanlon just behind her at 282.5. So we'll see how much positioning we see out of the next few lifts in this final rotation.
Wow.
Dunsmore, 102.5. 3 white lights. So she went from 92.5 on her first to 102.5 on her third.
And she's looking happy with that attempt. It makes you wonder when you see those fast thirds, and I've done it plenty of times, and you wonder, could I have had more in me?
Well, and I mean, to that end, I mean, you make your guesses, you crunch your numbers and all of your training and everything, and there's certainly a method to whatever madness someone would decide to go with. But I would imagine once the adrenaline starts flowing and they turn the lights on inside the place and the popcorn starts popping, the adrenaline can make you think, hey, could I have gotten another chip on the bar? Could it have made that kind of a difference? The Scanlon at 105. Cannot connect on that lift. She'll take 102.5 with her into the deadlift. And Jennifer Thompson, her final offering.
And here's the big show. I'm sure everyone's going to be standing soon.
2.3 times her body weight. Even Dennis likes that ratio. 2.3 times her body weight. This is
Most lifters are lucky to squat 2.3 times body weight, and Jennifer Thompson is benching it. And everyone in the audience is on their feet.
And she's exhorting the crowd to join her with this lift. It is a madhouse in here, and she made 140 look relatively easy. We'll see what 140 at 2.5 looks like.
Oh, yeah. And 3
white lights.
Yeah. You got to love when Jen gets on the bench and riles up the crowd even more after they see 142.5 kilos on a bench press for a 63-kilo woman. It's unbelievable.
Jennifer, the conqueror of the bench press, will finish up this discipline at 142.5 kilos. Wow.
I gotta say, sometimes when you first think powerlifting, people's initial reaction are big, huge guys, awesome guys like Ray Williams, like Blaine Sumner. You know, you think about these USA powerlifters, but don't sleep on the 63-kilo women, because there are more people here than some of the biggest sessions and the biggest guys cheering on female powerlifters and just encouraging young women, any women of all ages to join and come and get strong.
Yangsu Ren gets the men's segment started with 3 white lights and 150s. The crowd's still stirring after what they saw from Jennifer Thompson. And Meg, I think that's one of the things that's really great about the sport of powerlifting is that includes, I mean, you've got junior levels, you've got teen levels, you've got Master 4 levels, to where you've got people literally in their 70s that are competing for medals. And it really creates a broad swath of a variety of people that all have something to shoot for. Not everybody is going to be able to compete in the open, but anyone can compete at some level.
Of course.
And it really helps the lifeblood of the sport. As Mitchell Deskus at 152.5 gets 3 white lights, and so he's on the board.
And there's a weight class for everyone. There's an age class for most. And, you know, anyone can do it. My mom just competed in her first powerlifting meet in Columbus, Ohio a couple of months ago. So if my mom can do it, then if you're out there listening wondering if you should join and if you should sign up for your first meet, Heather Gallagher can do it. I'm sure you can too.
Well, now, and that, just from your own personal perspective, has to be incredibly gratifying, knowing that your mom has seen what you've been able to do in the sport and decide, yeah, I can totally do that. Whatever my daughter can do, yeah, I can take it on too.
You know, she has, her bench press is as strong as mine, and I'm not ashamed to say it.
But again, as the generations continue to grow and develop, as Marcus Adudu connects at 155 there, it really is something in a way to where the opportunity to have multiple generations loving the sport, growing the sport, that's exactly where the numbers and the generations are going to make all the difference in the world and take this from being a fringe or a niche sport and really bringing it into the mainstream, especially with the social mediums that take place now in the 21st century. It's John Downing at 165. Three white lights there, so he's on the board with his opening lift at 165 kilos, as that will bring up Charlie Dixon. So glad that you could join us this evening from the Continental Ballroom of the Orlando Hyatt International Airport. Meg Gallagher doing a fantastic job with the color analysis this evening. Brian Rushing here with you. So glad that you could join us, each and every one of you. And the numbers, they're growing. It's a big night here on this Thursday primetime segment. Dixon at 167.5 for his opener. He'll take it to the rack. Three white lights, he's on at 167.5. Now, Meg, for those that are in the sport that don't necessarily go about their work like a Jennifer Thompson would and really have to lean on either the squat or the deadlift to really make up their distance, what are some of the things that you would find that they're going to train on in regards to the bench press to make sure that they can still stay relevant in the three-discipline competition?
Well, the biggest thing, I think, especially for women in the bench press, is we're not used to, you know, when we go to gym class, we're not training like some of the guys are, unfortunately, with needing to do pull-ups and having coaches wanting us to do push-ups as much as boys are, unfortunately, you know, have the honor of getting to do that. Hopefully that'll change soon, but you want to focus on building some upper body mass, which usually we come into the sport lacking, unless your name is Jennifer Thompson. So you want to start to just work on all the variations and try to build that muscle with as many bench press variations and frequency, and just kind of do it all there and hope that you can add some upper body mass there.
Cody Jaeger on his opening misses at 170, as it looks like that he actually had his hind end come off the bench in that first attempt, so he'll look to put a qualifying score up on his second opportunity, as that'll bring up Russ Lowell, who brought the crowd to its feet just a little bit ago. And that lift there will likely give him a qualifying number that he can work off of. He gets three white lights there, so he's on at 170. As he brought the house down with a 301.5 kilo squat. And it really did. This place erupted.
Next looks like we've got Shawn Noriega coming up. Shawn Noriega on Instagram is at KissMyArch because he has a very impressive arch in the bench press. So we'll get to see it.
So Noriega at 177.5. And that's what the arch does for you. He's on the board at 177.5. And from a technical standpoint, is the arching in the back for an opportunity of creating a shorter stroke on the bench press, is that a relatively new technique? Because, I mean, you go into any gym in America, you've got folks that are just doing this for recreation. They're basically, you know, they're flying body parts all over the place, and I mean, it's almost like they're going to choke themselves out. There's a real method to the madness and really arching the back and trying to get that thing as short on the stroke as possible so that you can get the white lights to your favor.
And the arch is going to keep your shoulders set and your butt on the bench, going to keep you in line with the rules that we're looking for from the judges in USA Powerlifting. It's going to keep you safe and stable, but definitely in Shawn's case, he's using that range of motion to his advantage.
Dexter Jones.
And you'll see, even just comparing Dexter's bench with Shawn's bench, the lifters have different bodies, different leverages, different limb lengths. So their lifts, although they're all impressive, since they're here on the primetime session, they're going to look a lot different from lifter to lifter. There's not just one right way to do it.
Now Orion Bay Lark, who's going to come on for his first lift, I could see him as he approached the bench that he doesn't want a handoff. He wants to take this one on his own, and certainly he has that prerogative. After he completes the lift, Meg, I may ask you what might be the advantage for Bay Lark to do that. The lift is up. He'll put it on the rack. And 3 white lights, he's on the board at 190. So what might cause Bay Lark to determine, hey, I'll do the handoff on my own?
Some lifters just feel like, you know, they're not training with this lifter offer or the spotter who's giving the lift off. Really, they don't know him. Usually some lifters take a handoff from their training partner and get consistent handoffs. So maybe he just knows how he's going to unrack it, and he can trust that he can take control of it from the rack and onto the press.
Yangsu Ren will be on for his second attempt, connected at 150. This attempt at 157.5.
Looking strong with that attempt.
3 white lights at 157.5, so he'll take that number with him into his third attempt. Meg, is there anything that you're seeing in regards to the communication between the judges and the lifters themselves? Is there anything you're seeing there to where the rhythm and the flow seems to be working well for the lifters, and they're not being disadvantaged in any way by the judges with a prolonged command?
Definitely. I mean, USA Powerlifting is known for strict standards, but also known for keeping things on track and keeping things somewhat consistent as the judges can be. So it's looking like the competition's flowing pretty nicely and everything's staying on track. And I'm seeing a lot of made lifts, so that's always a good thing.
It's supposed to be that way, as Deskus at 160 gets 2 out of 3 white lights. I mean, that's really, I mean, the people that are here, that's what they want to see. They want to see the loaders to move the weights quickly, get the platform ready, the lifter to come out, execute a good lift, get the white lights, and continue to keep the flow going that way, because it certainly it keeps the flow of the contest going, but then it keeps the intensity of the contest to where the fans can really stay engaged.
To see one big lift after the other is always going to keep everyone psyched and keep them on their feet.
It's like a really good home run derby.
Oh, yeah.
It's Marcus Adudu with his second attempt, connected at 155. He's not going to be able to complete that lift, as we saw some wobbling on the right arm side. So he'll miss out on the second attempt. He'll look to make amends here on his third offering here in just a moment.
It looks like he just got stuck in one spot, so I think he can come back and make that one. I'm rooting for him.
Jaeger, who missed his first lift, will try to qualify here at 170 one more time. Meg, what are some of the things that go through a lifter's mind when they do miss on a lift and it wasn't anything like the head came up off the bench or anything like that? Literally, you had a breakdown mechanically to where you weren't able to complete the lift.
You know, you just kind of, you got to try and clear your mind of that miss and take it as if it was your first time taking that attempt.
It's Jaeger at 170, looking to redeem himself here off the first miss. That looked clean. Gets 3 white lights, so he makes amends there at 170. And I guess in reality, having a short memory when you're in the throes of a contest is probably of utmost importance.
It's important to be present in all of your lifts so that you can focus and just take it one lift at a time.
The old one lift at a time cliche. That's coming from a seasoned pro on the analysis chair. Downing at 172.5. Downing battles through. We'll see what the judges have to say. 3 white lights, so he goes from 165 to 172.5. So we're working through the second attempting rotation here at the 2017, the 10th annual USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals. So we want to thank GNC. GNC is a sponsor for the 2017 Raw Nationals. For GNC, live well. Find out more about GNC at gnc.com. Charlie Dixon at 175. Dixon with the second effort. That looked really efficient. 3 white lights, so he now moves from 167.5 to 175. One of the things, and I hate to interrupt, but one of the things that I'm beginning to notice is that we could actually be watching people see the event live here while watching it on the live stream at the same time. As you know, a lot of people are here and they want to get as much of a multimedia experience from that, and I think it probably is aiding in the fandom, if you will, of everybody that's here.
Come on, Russell. 386 on the board for Russell.
I know there's a lot of fans who are watching Russ Lowell compete and rooting for him to do well, flipping pancakes and hoping that he's making all his lifts.
So Russel Orhii, second attempt is good. He's on at 175. Now it seemed like that last night, and Meg, last night was insane here last night. It seemed like donuts were the theme. And I still don't know what the contextual relevance is to donuts, but it looks like we've changed from one breakfast food to another breakfast food as Shawn Noriega will step to the platform. Last night it got so wild. We even had a guy wearing a Stitch pajama outfit inside the arena, and I'm still not sure why. But it was this place was bananas last night. It's Noriega at 185. Put that on the rack. 2 out of 3 white lights, so he's on the board.
If you go and walk into any gym and see, in my opinion, see any guy benching 3 plates, 315 pounds, I always think that guy's probably pretty strong. These guys are benching in the 400s and just some of the strongest men in the USA, but then again in the world, lifting here at Raw Nationals. So it's really exciting to see. And imagine walking into a gym and seeing Dexter Jones bench pressing 424 pounds. Pretty amazing.
If I was a 26-year-old in Ohio and I walk into a gym that Dexter Jones is at, and I see him pushing around over 400 pounds, I'm probably just going to spend the next 45 minutes on the elliptical and then call it a night.
No way. Dexter Jones would want you to ask him for some bench press tips. I've never met him, but I can guarantee you he would rather you ask him for a tip.
Jones, second attempt, 192.5. 3 white lights, he's on the board. Meg, the problem is the tip that he might have for me is stay on the elliptical, bro.
I doubt that. I doubt that.
Believe me, for somebody that spends a lot of time on an elliptical at the gym, I know where my place is.
Well, hey now,
Bay Lark.
anybody, you know, I always say strength begins with the decision to be strong. So if you're out there and maybe you're not sure if you want to choose strength, if you want to be strong, then that's the first step. So, you know, that's all you got to do. And then you just walk into a gym. Hopefully you run into someone like Orion Bay Lark, and then you'll have a good career from there, I'm sure.
Bay Lark on his second attempt, 197.5. So he connects there, 3 white lights at 197.5. Now, Meg, I wanted to ask you, because a lot of your YouTube videos start with a catchphrase that I was able to take a look at it this morning and afternoon. Let everybody in on what the catchphrase is and what it derives from.
Well, I start every video by greeting my strong friends. So I say, hello, my strong friends. And I really just started lifting because I had a bunch of strong friends who convinced me with their strength, and they inspired me to try and get strong myself. So that was the highlight of my life during that time, was just lifting with my friends and getting strong with people that I cared about. And I think a lot of powerlifters can relate with that and their teammates and their training partners. So I like to think that everyone can have a strong friend, and everyone who decides to be strong is probably already strong, in my opinion. So that's the first step.
Yangsu Ren on his third attempt cannot complete the lift. So he'll take 157.5 with him to the deadlift segment. And you know, that is largely in part why you're such a social media maven, because you'll literally have people that will want to engage in the videos and at the same time engage in powerlifting for the very simple reason of, hey, I want to be a strong friend of yours too. I mean, it's really that simple. People want to be encouraged.
I hope so, and as more people like that get inspired to join the sport, we'll start to see them in the crowd, watching meets like this, watching the live stream, and supporting these amazing powerlifters that we're seeing.
Mitchell Deskus with his third attempt. 162.5. 3 white lights. He's on 3 for 3 in that segment, going from 152.5 to 162.5. As that will bring up Marcus Adudu, who initiated a 155-kilo lift. He connected there, missed at 162.5. So he'll get the repeat here on his third attempt.
He's a newer powerlifter, but I think he's going to make this one. I'm rooting for Marcus in this meet today.
Come on, Marcus. 162.5 kilos, 358.2 in pounds. The 22-year-old from North Carolina.
Marcus Adudu on his third attempt. And he cannot get that third lift, as he'll take 155 with him into the final discipline here in Orlando, Florida. Now, Meg, when you're looking at a younger lifter, which you take a look at Marcus Adudu, obviously a lot of raw strength, a lot of talent. He's got the chops to do this. What are some of the mistakes that younger lifters will make, especially on the big stage of a national level event?
Well, I think once you get from a local competition to a big competition like this, where you got tons of people watching, you got the live stream where there's thousands watching, you know, you start to get a little nervous. I can't really say what went on there with Marcus, but you know, practicing or competing is a skill that needs to be practiced, and you just get better choosing and making attempts as you go.
As Downing cannot connect on his last lift, so he'll take 172.5 with him. For Downing, his subtotal will be at 440 after the first two disciplines, and that'll bring up Charlie Dixon. Right now, as it stands, of the lifters that have completed their third attempt, Downing is at the top with that 440. Of course, other lifters will be coming up that have already surpassed that 440 number. Right now, the leader in the clubhouse is Russel Orhii, who has a subtotal at this moment of 475.5. Dixon, 3 white lights at 180. So he goes from 167.5 to 180 on his third lift here. That 180 will bump Dixon up to 465 on his subtotal.
On deck is Cody in the hole is Shawn.
Orhii will be making his third attempt at 180 after going from 170 to 175 on his first two. We'll try to continue that 5 kilo increment in his final lift from the bench press segment.
All right, Russell, Flex Training Systems. 3 white lights.
3 white lights, so he's on at 180, which will take his subtotal to 480 and 1/2.
Cody Jaeger.
That's not a bad spot to be in going into the deadlift, as I would imagine he is poised to put up a very sizable number
On deck is
in
Shawn
that
Noriega
deadlift
in the
segment.
hole, Dexter Jones.
Cody Jagger got on the board a lift ago at 170, will now make an attempt at 182.5. The 23-year-old out of Maryland. Jaeger. I think the judges should like that one. They do. 182.5 is where Jaeger will be.
Clean lift. Made it look good. It's always nice when you see a lifter, it's slowing down, but not getting stuck in one individual spot. He's just pushing through.
An efficient lift, a completed, successful, efficient lift, which gets you into the deadlift segment.
Dexter Jones in the hole, Orion Bay Lark.
Noriega will be making an attempt at 190 kilos. That's equivalent to almost 419 pounds.
Wow.
Two out of three, so he's on the board at 190, taking his subtotal to 455.
And if you want to see more of Shawn's awesome benching, you can check him out on Instagram. Follow your favorite lifters. I'm sure all of them are posting some amazing lifts on Instagram. And Shawn has kissed my arch, and I'm sure a lot of powerlifters can relate with non-powerlifters coming over and seeing the arch and not knowing exactly what it is. But that's okay. We just got to teach them. And Dexter's hyping up the crowd for his lift.
And as we continue to work on our calisthenics this evening by getting up out of our seat.
It's a nice break for us to get up as the lifters are rocking our worlds with some huge lifts here.
Well, the final rotation in the deadlift tonight, we might just have to perpetually stand. Jones connected at 185 and 192.5 earlier. This one at 201.5 kilos.
Hopefully.
And he cannot do it.
I think there was some downward movement on that one, unfortunately. It's sad to see a lifter miss from a technical call, but usually when the lift is made and gone up, aside from the bad call to the judges, I usually call that a gym PR, even though it's done on a platform, not counted towards his total, but I call it a gym PR. I would take that one.
As Orion Bay Lark will now come on to attempt 201 kilos, as he will be the final lifter at the men's bench press. Bay Lark sitting at a subtotal of 457.5. This would be an increase of 3.5 kilos. If he nails it, it would take his total to 461. Three white lights, and he's on the board at 201 kilos.
And that's an open American record. To fly up that quickly is pretty exciting to see. It makes you wonder how much he has left in him.
So Bay Lark now at 461 kilos through 2 disciplines. Right now, as it stands amongst the 10 primetime lifters, he's now in 3rd place as it relates to the subtotals. So Meg, we're through 2 segments. We've seen a lot of action, a lot of drama, and now it all comes down to the deadlift segment.
This is the fun part, in my opinion. Jen Thompson will say the bench is the fun part, but I think the deadlift is where, you know, you start to see who's going to win. You start to see lifters. This is where lifters can finally get a little more competitive and make changes to their attempts. So let's say for the 3rd deadlift, if you find that maybe you need an extra 2.5 kilos to get on the podium or to beat a certain lifter, that's when you can make up to 2 changes on your 3rd deadlift attempt. So you'll start to see some strategy at play on those 3rd deadlifts. And I think with this 63 kilo class and the 83 kilo class, we'll see some fun being had by the lifters and the coaches.
Well, and that scenario played itself out last night when Taylor Atwell had built a substantial lead in and he was in the top spot in last night's primetime competition for the men, to the point where Blake LaHue, a student at Texas A&M, had to come up with this unbelievable number. It was like 25, 30 kilos over his personal
best. I saw he added 80 pounds to his deadlift.
Added 80 pounds to the deadlift, and he took the shot. He did not complete the lift, but I mean, when the crowd saw it, I mean, had he hit that lift, and I don't even know if it was really humanly possible for Blake LaHue to hit that lift, but just for him to attempt it, this place almost came unhinged last night.
Oh yeah. That's when it gets really exciting. And I think, you know, I was impressed watching that on the live stream. I was resting because I had to be up at 6 in the morning to weigh in the next morning. But I was not surprised he moved it, because obviously he's very strong. But when I saw him start to creep that off the floor, I was like, wow, this is exciting to watch. Watch him pull and really struggle and know that he has to put it all on the line just to, you know, be competitive with an amazing lifter, a world champion like Taylor Atwood. That's really impressive, and it's sort of a chance you got to take.
We'll begin here in about 2.5 minutes with the deadlift, as Meghan Scanlon will get things started out, as she'll open up at 152.5. Now, from this perspective, right now as it stands, I'm taking a look at the subtotals, and Jennifer Thompson has 292.5 in her quiver. Right now, that's about 20 kilos better than her next best competitor, which is Kristin Dunsmore. So my question is this: with Dunsmore being the closest to Thompson, Will we see Thompson basically sort of playing a cat and mouse game with Dunsmore to try to stay in the neighborhood if she possibly can with the deadlift? But then we see folks like Dunsmore, possibly others like, I'm trying to take a look at who else is in the area, Samantha Calhoun. Is it possible that they may take a more aggressive first lift to really put some initial pressure on Thompson?
It's definitely possible. You'll notice here in the deadlift, the lifters are all different, where we have Jen Thompson is obviously the best in the world at bench pressing. Her deadlift is amazing as well, because she's just an amazing power lifter overall. But Sam Calhoun and Natalie Terrana are really strong in the deadlift. So we'll see them, although they're a little bit behind Dunsmore now, we'll see them creep up, and we'll see them, even now we can see their entry totals are way down towards the bottom, and we'll see them at the end of this flight here. So it'll be fun to see how this ends and how the competition folds out.
Well, now to give some context, I'm looking at the same deadlift numbers that you're looking at. Thompson is starting at 160, and then you've got Samantha Calhoun, who's going to try to open up with something like a 197.5. Of course, Thompson's probably not going to stay at 160. She's probably going to advance significantly. But this thing could, in fact, turn on a dime if everybody hits on these lifts that they've got programmed here. At least for the moment, Samantha Calhoun, who is at this point 30 kilos behind Jennifer Thompson, would actually have bypassed her by a few kilos after the first rotation, and then the drama really begins to set in.
That's right, and I think we'll see Sam take some aggressive lifts and an aggressive opener to really set herself up for just keep chipping away and building up that total. It'll be fun to see, and it's, you know, kind of exciting even before we start lifting to see these entry openers.
Well, we're seeing that, and again, I mean, we talked about it even going back as far as the squats. Which competitor would be the first to blink? Because once that happens, we'll begin to see the chips fall into place. But nobody's blinked yet.
I know. They're killing it. We had Kristin Dunsmore miss her third squat, which I know she was really hoping to get that and chip away at her American record. But, you know, maybe she still has something in her. She's towards the end of the line, end of the flight in her entry attempt, so maybe she's taking something aggressive, and you never know when you're shooting for a podium with such a competitive class. You never know what can happen.
Is there a possibility that even in the squats, you have a number in your mind that you think you can reasonably get? You also have a number that you think could really help you going into the bench and ultimately the deadlift. For someone who feels like on their second attempt, I got the number that I'm really comfortable with, now I feel like with the third attempt I'm playing with house money, so therefore I'll get really ambitious in the hopes that if I land this lift, I've really made life a whole lot easier for me going into the deadlift segment.
Definitely. I think some lifters will lock in a certain total with their entry or their second, knowing that their third or their second, they can really have some fun. Let's say earlier today, I was able to lock in a small PR with my second deadlift, so I just YOLO'd and kind of went for it for my third attempt. So that's when you can, you know, you'll start to see some people taking risks and having more fun with their second or their third. Now these are going to be a little bit more calculated because the lifters aren't just looking for a PR, they're looking for a podium spot with this really competitive 63 kilo class.
Meg, of all the color analysts I've worked with this week, you're the leader in the clubhouse because you're the only person that has utilized YOLO in the middle of color analysis. That's a solid job.
All the power lifters out there know exactly what I'm talking about.
As Meghan Scanlon will open up at 152.5. This is the first deadlift of the evening's primetime segment. 3 white lights, she's on the board as she successfully gets 152.5.
It's deadlift time, man. You can crank it up, even though it's not a...
That'll bring up Sarah Zastrow. Zastrow was not able to put together a qualifying number on the squats, redeemed herself very nicely on the bench. We'll see what happens here on the deadlift as she's attempting 155 in her opener. Zastrow. 2 out of 3. She gets the lift to go. 155 is her qualifying number. And Meg, one of the things that I continue to notice in this really my first full year of broadcasting powerlifting, very seldom do you see a split decision in the deadlift. Usually it's pretty clear. You either executed the lift or you didn't. There's really not a lot of wiggle room. There we did see a 2-1 in favor of. It's Kaitlyn Mendall with her lift at 157.5. 3 white lights, so she's on the board there.
There's a couple ways lifters can get a red light on the deadlift. If you see a knee bend after the lockout, or any time during the lift, if you see a lifter's knee bend, that can be grounds for a red light. If you see any ramping or hitching or downward movement of the bar, as with the other lifts, that can also get you a red light. Otherwise, lift it up, control it on the way down, and you're good to go.
Jennifer Thompson will now step to the platform. An initial offering of 160 for Thompson here. And if 160 is her qualifying number, she certainly has plenty in the tank that she'll be able to move from in her final 2 lifts in the deadlift competition. So that'll bring up Abby Citrin, the 28-year-old out of the state of Illinois.
How do you think it feels to be Jen and lifting in front of a poster of herself, larger than life-size poster of herself?
Well, I mean, she's one of the iconic figures in the sport, and I got to be honest with you. If I was in that spot, I'd be feeling myself a little bit. In all honesty, one thing is certain: I don't ever have to worry about that kind of thing. They don't put posters of broadcasters up at powerlifting events. The Citrin, 3 white lights there. She went quickly. 160 will be her qualifying number, as that'll bring up Zakharchenko, who will be 165 will be her lift.
You'll notice some of the lifters come up and it looks like they have some white powder on their legs, and the lifters are allowed to put baby powder on their legs to help with the bar sliding across the skin when they're in the upward movement. Just a little trick that you can use when you're going for your heavy deadlifts if you're at home. You can deadlift like a pro.
Zakharchenko, 3 white lights there, so she's on the board at 165. Ewa Januszkiewicz will be coming up in just a moment, a 170-kilo opening attempt here. I want to thank MyMacros Plus, the complete diet solution. We're happy to have them at the 2017 USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals. For more information on the MyMacros Plus program, log on to getmymacros.com. That's getmymacros.com. Januszkiewicz, 3 white lights at 170, so she qualifies at 170 now. That'll bring up Kristin Dunsmore. And Dunsmore, as we talked about in the subtotal numbers, was coming in 20 kilos behind Thompson. Didn't quite go for the entire 20 in the difference between she and Thompson, but does have a chance to make up some ground at least after the first rotation. If she connects here, she'll have cut off 17.5 kilos, which will certainly tighten things.
Natalie
as it looks like it is going to be some kind of finish here as we wrap up with the deadlifts. And of course, Dunsmore going to get 3 white lights there. So she is on at 177.5. Natalie Tirana will make an attempt at 195 before Samantha Calhoun will make an attempt at 197.5.
Natalie gets pumped up in the back listening to some music, and as we all know, she's listening to Whitney Houston. She's notorious for it.
And this is something that you know for a fact. Whitney Houston, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Tirana, 3 white lights. She's on the board at 195.
You'll see a lot of the lifters in the 63 kilo class deadlifting in the sumo position, doing a sumo deadlift where their feet are outside of their hands. Natalie Tirana is one of the few who's lifting conventional, where it's the opposite. She has her feet in a more narrow position.
It's Calhoun, 197.5.
And we're going to see some big deadlifts from those two.
As she is on the board at 197.5. You see them setting up for the second rotation. Coming up as Sarah Zastrow will make an attempt at 160. You see the crowd here at a packed Continental Ballroom. Zastrow on her second attempt. And she cannot engage the lift, as she'll stay at 155. And now she pauses.
The sumo position is going to be helpful in a couple of different ways depending on the lifter's leverages. But you got to be really patient off the floor.
And if I'm understanding properly, the judges and the jury have stepped in saying that that was misloaded by about 50 kilos.
Oh, well, that's not nothing.
No, it's not. It's not. That's.
You want to take a jump? Who was it that took the 80-pound jump last night again?
Blake LaHue.
Oh, so that's a Blake LaHue jump?
Yeah, that's ordering the dozen and getting the bulk and wondering why you can't put it in your little sedan. Goodness gracious. That's that's paying for a subcompact at the rental car place and getting a Suburban. Not that there's anything wrong with a Suburban, except you'll make more trips to the gas station. Scanlon is awaiting once they get the rack reset. She'll be making an attempt at 165.
Meghan has an awesome squat, awesome bench, obviously an awesome deadlift, who am I kidding? But she's starting to, we see the other lifters with a little bit stronger deadlift start to break away from the pack, whereas Meghan's been kind of also just in line with the head of the pack these past 2 lifts. But then you start to see the lifters break away from each other during the deadlifts here.
Scanlon, 165, 3 white lights. And we talked about it earlier, but just how well-rounded an athlete she is. It really shouldn't be a surprise to us that she is very, very proficient on the squat, on the bench press, on the deadlift, to where maybe she's not a specialist at any one discipline, but because she's very solid at all 3, gives herself a fighting chance every time out.
And it's nice to have your favorite lift, but the competition is in the total. So whoever has the biggest total wins the competition.
It's Kaitlyn Mendall 165. 2 out of 3 white lights there, so she gets that to go. She'll take her number up to 165. And we talked about with Scanlon, with Scanlon, 3 Ironman competitions and 10 marathons.
That is very impressive. Mostly because I wouldn't even dare try. So props to her.
Well, I mean, for me, it's almost a 26-mile commute from my home to work. So I do a marathon every day. It's just done at about 22 miles a gallon. As Citrin connects 3 white lights there. She's on at 170, and that'll bring up Zakharchenko. As it has been a full night of activity as we near the 11 o'clock hour. We started this morning at 9 a.m. and we're just minutes away from going into our 15th hour of broadcast.
And we're getting 3 reds on. It starts to get even more exciting.
Come on, Bridget. 391.3 pounds. Here comes Zacharchenko.
It's been quite a day for you because you started at that 9 a.m. number.
I weighed in at 6 a.m.
It has been a full day for you, Meg. It really has. Zakharchenko at 177.5.
Looking like a strong lift for her.
3 white lights. She's moved her total from 165 to 177.5.
And it looks like Ewa here and Bridget have the same coach, both from Connecticut, so I'm assuming that they're training in the same gym together, which is awesome to have someone so competitive with you in the gym, and they're probably just pushing each other day after day.
Well, I would imagine it's the whole iron sharpening iron thing.
Bars being loaded for Ewa.
Ewa Januszkiewicz, 182.5 will be this attempt after connecting on 170.
You'll notice each lifter has their own unique approach to getting into their start position and approaching the barbell.
Januszkiewicz connects there, 3 white lights. So she's at 182.5. And you know, again, we talk about the training and the advances that are made in the coaching and the fitness and the nutrition and all that stuff. But in reality, this sport really lends itself to a lot of the colorful personalities, the individuality of the participants in the sport. That's why we can see somebody coming out here with state-of-the-art equipment and somebody else coming out and lifting in a pair of Chuck Taylors.
And you got Jen, who's hyping the crowd up. I think she said, "This is my weight, let's go." So let's see.
Going from 160 to 190 on this attempt. Wow. 3 white lights, so that 30 kilos we were talking about earlier just basically got wiped out in one fell swoop.
Yep.
As she takes her subtotal now to 482.5. And Samantha Calhoun is now the only one close to her, and she's 22.5 kilos back. She'll try to make up some distance with her second opportunity as Kristin Dunsmore is on now for 192.5. If she connects here, 3 white lights, so she moves her total up to 465. So 465, just 17.5 kilos behind Thompson. And for the moment, she moves ahead of Calhoun. Natalie Tirana will look to go from 195 to 205 on this attempt.
$451.9 pounds.
Tirana. Nobody's given in. 3 white lights.
Awesome.
So that moves her total, subtotal I should say, to 457.5. So she's still in shouting distance and certainly in position for medaling. Now Samantha Calhoun, as the crowd comes to their feet at 210 kilos. Three white lights there, and looks like she's got more in the tank. So she cuts the distance between herself and Jennifer Thompson by just 10 kilos.
And what's the difference between those two right now?
Samantha Calhoun is at 472.5. Jennifer Thompson 482.5. Kristin Dunsmore at 465.
I gotta say the distance between Jen Thompson and Sam Calhoun hasn't ever been seen. I don't think Jen Thompson has really had that much competition. Hasn't had this close a competition in a very, very long time, I'm assuming. I know in one way it might be a little maybe scary, probably not because she's a pro, but I know she's excited that women are out here killing it and kind of following in her footsteps.
Zastrow at 160, getting a chance to relift off of the incorrect loading. So she connects at 160. So Zastrow, after having just lifted, will have a little bit of time before she comes back on. Meghan Scanlon will make a final attempt, excuse me, at 172.5. If she connects here, this would take her total to 455 kilos, which would be her powerlifting total.
And that's an impressive total.
That is an impressive total. It would keep her out of the top 3 for all that matters.
I think 455 kilos is that 1,003 pounds?
I do believe.
So to get 1,000-pound total as a 63 kilo woman is unbelievable. That kind of strength from Meghan is really, you know, that's just another level of strength where I think from the Primetime session down to some of the other powerlifters that didn't quite make Primetime, you know, you'll see a gap there from these lifters that separates them apart from the rest. And that's why they're lifting here in front of a packed house. That's why they get to share a platform with Jennifer Thompson and some of the legends.
And to give you some context, as unbelievable a number as that is, would still just be 5th place in the competition, which is amazing.
Very amazing.
So Zastrow will be the next to lift, as she has 4 minutes to come out and make a lift. She doesn't have to use the entirety of the 4 minutes, as I understand it, but she can take as much as 4 minutes to complete her final lift opportunity.
So here they're making up for the misload and letting her take an honest attempt with enough rest time so that she can hopefully make this. You know, she didn't get to put up a total, so I'm really hoping that she can come out on the platform, that the crowd gets on their feet. You know, Sarah's not going to put up a total, but the crowd is still going to be pumped, and they're going to cheer for her, and I hope that energy gets her pumped enough to get a good lift here.
Well, we'll certainly see here in a matter of moments. While we've got an opportunity, I want to say hello to all the good people at Scientific Sports Products. They're a proud sponsor of the 2017 USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals. SSP, the brand for drug-free athletes. Find out more at SSPnutrition.com. As we're here inside the Continental Ballroom of the Hyatt Orlando International Airport in beautiful Central Florida. Meg Gallagher here bringing us color commentary this evening. Brian Rushing here bringing the play-by-play. So glad that you've stayed with us through this entirety of the Primetime segment. It's Meg to give you some indication. This is Primetime as Sarah Zastrow comes out and imploring the crowd to get behind her for this final lift opportunity. 167.5.
Oh, wow.
And there you go. 3 white lights for Zastrow as her night comes to a close.
Her last lift of the night, so it's nice to see her make it. Not the day she wanted, but I think she's got a long powerlifting career ahead of her, and she's making prime time on her second meet, so hey, that's a pretty big win if you ask me. So I'm excited to see her at 2018 Nationals in Scranton, or not Scranton, that was 2 years ago, in Spokane, Washington.
I do not think we've seen the last out of Sarah Zastrow. Meghan Scanlon will now come on. This attempt at 172.5. This would get her to 455 if she connects. She feels confident about it.
Oh,
3 white lights. That's a good number.
I think she wanted that 1,000-pound total. When you're in the 1,000-pound total club, that's a pretty huge deal. You can put it on your Instagram bio and then have the millions of followers come your way.
Because not many of those million followers are going to be pushing around 1,000 pounds in a 3-discipline event like this 2017 Raw Nationals. Kaitlyn Mendall, who connected at 157.5 and 165, now trying 172.5 for the 29-year-old. And she will not be able to connect. She finishes her evening at 165 on the deadlift. Her overall total will be at 400 kilos. So Bridgette Zakharchenko or I should say Abby Citrin will be coming on at 177.5. Zakharchenko will be making an attempt soon after at 190. We'll see what the judges have to say. 3 white lights, so she completes her night at 177.5.
A little hard at the start of her pull there, but she's so strong that she was able to recover from that bar kicking out a little bit and recover and pull it in with that upper back strength and keep it tight and finish the lift for a final deadlift attempt. That's always exciting to see when you see a lifter is able to recover on a slight mistake at the start of the pull.
So for Citrin, she's on the board with that 177.5, bringing her subtotal to 407.5 on the evening. Folks, while we've got a moment, I'll go ahead and thank Titan Support Systems for being a proud sponsor of the 2017 USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals. 4 decades of champion powerlifters, always the originator, never the imitator. Learn more at www.titansupport.com. That's www.titansupport.com.
The women here are pushing their bodies to the absolute limit. We've got the judges are cleaning up the platform. You know, it's a common thing that happens to women where you have a little bit of, it's called incontinence. A lot of female powerlifters deal with it. Unfortunately, when you're pushing your body to the absolute limit, which obviously the lifters in the prime time are doing here, you'll experience some of it. It's not it's not our favorite thing that happens, unfortunately, for us women. But I'm sure there's a lot of women out there who are listening and they can relate. You know, it's not something we love. It's something that we can work on and try to strengthen. But it definitely happens.
And with that, since we still have a moment, Meg, I guess I'll ask you, since we've got the time to talk about it apparently, is what is on the horizon for Meg Gallagher, both from a social media perspective and from a powerlifting perspective?
For me, I'm hoping, right now I'm working on a series that kind of starts, it's called Zero to Platform. So, you know, as the sport develops and gets more and more popular, I get more and more complete beginners who ask me the most basic questions of how do I get started? How do I get to my first meet? And so I'm working on a series that's informational, and it gets a lifter who has never even seen a powerlifting meet understanding what to expect before they get to their first. So I'm working on that. It's a little intense of a series, so I'm trying to make it perfect, well researched, and I'm trying to add a bit of history of the sport so that beginners can, you know, pay a little homage to the beginners, the pioneers of the sport, as I hope. So I'm working on that for the YouTube channel, and for me, I'm just gonna keep lifting and getting stronger as we all do. It doesn't stop at your last nationals. You just keep on moving forward and seeing what you can add to your total.
As Bridgette Zacharchenko will come on for her third attempt, as Meg obviously helping develop a foundation for future lifters. Zacharchenko, we'll see what the judges think. Three white lights. She qualifies at 190.
And she struggled there and fought for that lockout, so that's always fun to see. These third deadlifts, we're going to see the bar start to slow down as we're really pushing it.
For Zacharchenko, that takes her subtotal to 400 even in the competition. And Ewa Januszkiewicz with her final attempt at 192.5.
Strong lockout.
That's a very solid effort there for Januszkiewicz.
And Eva's happy.
She actually gets a high five from Jennifer Thompson on the way out as she moves her number to 422.5.
And Ewa and Jen Thompson have been competing together with each other for years. And so, you know, you just start to become really good friends with your fellow competitors. And Jen hypes up the crowd.
Already in at 190. Trying to take it to 197.5. Thompson.
She fought for it, and she knows she has it. And she's in there with
she
three
connects
rights.
At 197.5, finishes off the dunk and hangs on the rim. Jennifer Thompson gets a good lift there. She's now in at 490. I'll try to do the math here while we're waiting on Kristin Dunsmore. There's a separation of 17.5 kilos from she and Samantha Calhoun, which would force Calhoun to make an attempt of 2:27.5 if she wants to catch Thompson. Dunsmore, 2:02.5. Do the judges like it? You betcha.
Nice.
Dunsmore at 4:65. Tirana, 2:21.5 will be the attempt for Natalie Tirana, as we're down to 2 final efforts here on the Thursday primetime segment here of the women's 63 kilos.
So here we might see, we saw Natalie make an attempt change. And we're gonna start to figure out who's on the podium and where they are.
And it's always interesting, the added drama that comes into the room when you see that blinking red and white light coming up. Attention, attempt change has been submitted. As you've got folks behind the wall breaking out their abacus, trying to figure out what number it's going to take to get to a desired location.
Sam Calhoun's looking pretty focused.
So the weight change has been submitted. They're re-racking the bar. The music has been cranked up all the more as we're getting to the most intense portion of this 63 kilo finale for the women. A crescendo here inside the Continental Ballroom at the Hyatt Orlando International Airport. Calhoun. $212.5 will be the attempt.
Wow.
And she will connect. 3 white lights. So she now goes to 475, which currently puts her in second position. Natalie Tirana has made another attempt change. 223 kilos, going from 205
and this, if Natalie makes this lift, she'll go from 4th place to 2nd place, getting her on the top 3, getting her the silver medal. So let's see if she can connect. She's got Whitney Houston blasting in her earphones. She's got her coach Arian giving her the confidence that she needs. I think she's ready to go.
So Tirana
and the crowd is pumped.
will step to the platform with phones out, people on their chairs. She wants to dance with somebody.
Oh.
She cannot do it.
A good pull, and you know what? You got to go for it. I think, unfortunately, she missed that, but that's her opportunity.
As Tirana cannot connect at 223, she'll take 205 with her. As Tirana looks like she will finish in 4th position.
At that point, you kind of just got to decide, do you want the silver? Are you willing to take a big jump for it? And I think Natalie made the choice to get what she wanted. Unfortunately, it didn't work today. But hopefully at 2018 Nationals, we'll see as exciting, maybe even more exciting, as everyone's had a year to kind of train and get stronger. You know, you continue to close that gap between Jen Thompson and the other lifters. So it'll be exciting to keep an eye on all of those And of course, I recommend everyone watching, follow your favorite lifters on Instagram, find them on YouTube, and keep track of their progress. Sometimes they keep it under wraps and keep it secret when it's as competitive as it is.
Well, and Meg, you mentioned that, but in the world of powerlifting, with what we've seen here, the cluster of ladies that are really at the top and were at the top of their games this evening, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next 12 months leading up to Spokane in 2018. Cody Jaeger, 3 white lights, his first effort at 250 as we'll start the deadlift segment. As there has been a lot of drama here in the building. And now I'm hoping that we don't have a decrescendo as
there's
still plenty of lifts here to spot amongst the men.
We've got a lot of Russ Lowell fans in the house, a lot of Shawn Noriega fans in the house, a lot of Dexter Jackson fans in the house.
John Downing, his first attempt at 260. If we don't get to midnight, we're going to get awfully close. Downing cannot connect at 260. So he'll come back on his next go-round to put together a qualifying score. Trying to take a peek at what's going on and the subtotal. Right now, Russel Orhii has a 480.5 as he's up by a good little bit. But it'll be very interesting to see what happens here with the upcoming lifts, especially in this first rotation. So I believe we'll see, Meg, the tone beginning to be set here in these first rotations. Mitchell Deskus, an attempt of 265. Deskus, the 26-year-old from the Lone Star State, gets 3 white lights, so he's on 265. Here comes Dexter Jones at 267.5.
I'm sorry, I think I called him Dexter Johnson just a minute ago. Dexter Jones, of course, one of my new favorite lifters.
Well, I'm sure somewhere in a gym in America there's a Dexter Johnson that aspires to be Dexter Jones at some point.
I think we all aspire to be lifting as much as Dexter Jones.
Jones with an opening attempt of nearly 590 pounds in the deadlift. Three white lights, so Jones is on at 267.5, and that'll bring up Shawn Noriega at 275. Now, Meg, while we do have an opportunity in between these lifts, if we could briefly kind of touch on, we're here at the Raw Nationals. Of course, there is an equipped side of things with USA Powerlifting. From that perspective, what are some of the most obvious differences from equipped lifting versus raw lifting?
So raw lifting in USA Powerlifting is defined, the lifters can only wear knee sleeves, a belt, and wrist wraps. Other than that, and a singlet, no other supportive equipment is allowed.
Noriega, three white lights. He's on at 275 for his opener.
So the equipment really in raw powerlifting is, you know, keeping your joints safe, keeping you feeling good. But other than that, it's not really helping you lift too much more. Whereas in equipped, you can get a little more carryover as opposed to raw. So you'll see those lifters lifting a bit more because they have supportive, not singlets, but they have supportive equipped suits. And raw powerlifting, none of that's allowed, only a singlet.
Orion Bay Lark, a 275 kilo attempt. Three white lights, so he's on board. So we're here in the heart of the first attempted rotation. here at the 2017 USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals. Marcus Adudu coming off with a 282.5 kilo first offering here.
I gotta say, the guys are calm and composed, and the girls have been getting hype. The guys are a little more serious, I think.
Adudu. 3 white lights there. So he did with 282.5. That'll bring up Charlie Dixon. As we continue on here, as we get into the deadlift segment, I mean, there's not only now as it gets to the point to where we get the changing of the weights, but you'll see them taking the wire brushes and scraping off some of the residue off the bar. You'll see them doing various and sundry things for the lifters as they prepare their lifts, as it becomes very serious business here and these final 3 lifts in the deadlift segment.
The lifters want to make sure that they're getting in the correct start position before they're even pulling on the bar. They want to make sure that, you know, they have enough chalk on their hands, but there's not any, you know, residue left over from the lifter before them. So the spotters and loaders are making sure that the bars are ready for each lifter as they approach.
Charlie Dixon with a 285 opening bid here. Connects there. 3 white lights. So he's on the board. And that'll bring up Russel Orhii. A 290.
So it's been common, I think especially in the 83 kilo class, to see a lot of lifters pulling with double overhand hook grip. And it's a killer for your thumbs. So I think it's impressive. But yeah, you want to look at the hands of each lifter and see here Russell is doing a mixed grip, 1 hand over, 1 hand under the bar. More commonly seen than the double overhand.
3 white lights for Orhii, so he's in at 290. Is Yangsu Ren will be the final in the first rotation to step up.
It looks like he's getting some fans on their feet.
Well, he's starting out at 305, which is 15 kilos more than what Russ Lowell started with.
I thought he was going to pull that wide in that wide of a stance for a second.
Wow.
There he is.
Shots fired in the first rotation as Yangsu Ren with 305.
And you can see his teammates, it looks like his teammates are in the back, and they've just been, his teammates or fans, they've just been waiting for the deadlift for him.
So he immediately jumps out with a very good number. As he is at 305 off the opener. No one else is attempting to match that on the second rotation. And Meg, his second attempt, if this is right, he's going to attempt 321.
Wow.
As he is trying to make up some ground and do it in a hurry in this competition. Some very bold numbers about to pop up in this second rotation. Downing missed on his first attempt. He'll try it again. This time, 260. Downing at 260. 3 white lights, so he makes amends for that lift after missing it on the first go-round, and that'll bring up Cody Jaeger, who connected at 250 his first go-round. Thursday night, a big night as it relates to USA Powerlifting here at the Raw Nationals, but don't be mistaken, there is plenty, and I mean plenty, of action this weekend as they'll take it deep into Sunday evening here at the Continental Ballroom in Orlando. And all you've got to do to join us, www.usapowerlifting.com. One more time, www.usapowerlifting.com. Jaeger on his second attempt, three white lights, so he's in at 265. It's Mitchell Deskus, who connected at 265, will be on at 277.5 for his second opportunity. Deskus connects at 277.5.
The deadlift, you want to be psyched up enough to help you get a big pull, but also you need to be focused enough to make sure that you're in the right start position, you got a good grip on the bar, and then everything is feeling good. So it's a nice balance between focus and, you know, controlling the hype. So I think we'll see some fun setups, especially as people start getting a little more excited for these third attempts.
Dexter Jones, a 280 kilo effort. Jones cranks it up. We'll see what the judges think. Three white lights that he's on.
And you saw the dust cloud from his baby powder sliding from his hands, making contact with the legs. And what that baby powder is going to do, a lot of people think it's chalk, which is the opposite effect. You don't want chalk on your legs when you're deadlifting. You do want them on your hands, but definitely not on the legs. So what that does is just helps his hands slide as they're making contact. Just gives you a little bit of an advantage.
So on the hands, you definitely want the chalky rosin for grip's sake, but you want on the legs for the smooth baby-like effect.
Exactly.
You want the baby powder. Bay Lark. 287.5, 3 white lights, so he's on at 287.5.
Shawn Noriega, 639 pounds.
If you ever see a jacked guy in a CVS buying baby powder and Pedialyte, he's probably going to a powerlifting meet.
Probably going to a powerlifting event.
Or a jacked girl, for that matter.
Noriega connected at 275.
Oh, wow.
At 290 here on this attempt. 3 white lights, so he's on there at 290. So Noriega now with that lift has his subtotal up to 745. As there is a grouping of guys tightly compacted around one another.
And I think that's what they expected, so it'll be fun to see what ends up happening towards the end of this end of these attempts here.
And Yangsu Ren, if he's able to connect on the ambitious numbers that he's got for this second lift, he'll get himself into that grouping as well. It's Charlie Dixon, a 297.5 kilo attempt here after connecting at 285. Three white lights, so he's on. 2 for 2 in the deadlift segment.
And we're seeing some quick attempts. The bar is flying on some of these seconds. I think it'll start to slow down when we get to thirds. And maybe we'll see some YOLOs for some of these lifters. I hope. I YOLO'd and it worked for me. So I'm hoping we can see some fun attempts later on today.
The next time I head to the gym and I'm on the elliptical, I'll think of you and go an extra 5 minutes because I want to YOLO too. A doo-doo. At 300 kilos, 3 white lights, so he's on at 300 kilos after going from 282.5. Now Russel Orhii will make an attempt at 305, going from 290. Folks, if you want to join the fold of people here that make powerlifting a part of their life, log on to www.usapowerlifting.com to find out how you can get things started. Orhii. Three white lights, so he's on at 305. And that'll bring up Yangsu Ren, who is holding the number, 321 kilos on his second attempt.
And there's some fans in the crowd, and they are hailing to Yangsu Ren, it looks like. And they're standing on the chairs now. Not just standing on the chairs for a second attempt.
Some more people are getting on their feet, and they may join the hailing if he connects on this lift.
Open American record attempt.
Out of the Golden State of California, the 29-year-old prepares for his second attempt in the 2017 83-kilo Raw Nationals. You think he knew it?
I think he knew it.
3 white lights.
You know, to take it for a second attempt, I think you gotta know it. You gotta know it's coming.
Yes, indeedy. 321. That gets him up to 718.5. And all of a sudden, he's back in it. Meg, is it conceivable that he goes for an even more outrageous number
with the speed,
on this third attempt? Oh,
with
my
the
goodness.
Speed we saw there.
He's trying. This has got to be a typo. He's going to make an attempt of 333 kilos on his final offering.
Do you think he just wanted to get lucky 333? It could be. You know, why not?
Absolutely. It's Downing making an attempt of 270. And Ren may not win the competition, but he may have stolen the show here in the deadlift.
Oh, yeah.
Downing cannot complete the lift, so he'll take 260 with him. His day comes to a close as he has a powerlifting total of 700 on the night. I'm just amazed by what I've seen from each and every one of these guys. I mean, this is just on a completely different plateau. Take the best lifter in all the gyms throughout the country, and 99% of them can't do what these guys are doing.
That's exactly right.
It is the highest of the high cotton. It's Cody Jaeger. 250 on his first, he made it. 265 on the second, nailed it. And now 275 on the third attempt. Jaeger at 275. 3 white lights, so he takes 275 with him. Jaeger at 722.5.
So if you think about a powerlifting meet and you think about the podium, you got first, second, third place, and to get top 10 is amazing, and to get top 20 is amazing, even in your weight class. But all these lifters are here hoping that they're just adding to their total and beating their best lifts, doing something they've never done before, and just battling with the strength that they've shown in the past. So you don't always have to win to go home a happy powerlifter.
Well, I mean, Meg, let's look at it. I mean, only one of these guys can win the competition.
Right.
But how can you complain if you've eclipsed all of your PRs prior? I mean, as Deskus connects at 290 for his final lift, so he's got 717.5. I mean, it's unbelievable that these guys are going to put together numbers that they at one point only dreamed of ever competing at.
That's exactly right. And you'll look at videos from one nationals to the other, no matter what level you're at, primetime or not, and you'll say, wow, in 12 months I've added 10 kilos to my total, which is huge. And if you're someone like Jennifer Thompson, who's been lifting year after year after year, and if you can get 10 years of adding 10 kilos to your total, you're going to be there lifting with the likes of Jennifer Thompson.
Well, and that's the difference when you're looking at the lifters who are starting to come on the scene with some really solid numbers. And then you look at somebody like Jennifer Thompson, who's been at the top of the game for a decade or better. It really is amazing the longevity that she's had in the sport, and not just hanging around. She's at the pinnacle year in and year out.
Crushing all the young girls that come and try and test her, which we saw. We weren't sure what was going to happen today, but she did what Jen Thompson does.
In the end, she showed her teeth and won it all. Dexter Jones, 300 kilos on his final offering. He can't complete the lift.
But walking off the platform with a smile, doesn't look like he's too upset.
Again, I don't know really. I mean, 737.5's not going to win it, but it's an incredibly solid number with a youngster that's going to have a lot of life left in the sport. Orion Bay Lark, 302.5 kilos. That is almost 667 pounds. Cannot complete the lift.
And we're seeing the guys start to really put some big numbers up and take some big attempts. They don't want to leave Orlando without, taking something a little risky.
Well, and who's to say that the number from Ren may not change again?
Right.
I mean, at this point, in my mind, it's just a number. I mean, why not do something really gaudy and go after something.
If you're going to fly all the way out here, you might as well put some weight on the bar.
Yes, that's the one way of putting it. Charlie Dixon, 305 for his final offering. What will the judges say? It's the crowd here, some of them not agreeing with the judges.
Well, you want your lifter to make the lift. Even, I think we all saw some downward movement there, unfortunately. So we're never going to be happy when he doesn't get the lift. We're always hoping maybe they'll give it to him. Because when you see someone finish a pull that they struggle with, you're like crossing your fingers and kind of thinking, just give it to him, just give it to him. But you know the judges gotta keep everyone honest. That's what they're there to do.
Marcus Adudu, after connecting at 282.5, 300, will now make a final offer at 305. And he won't be able to hang on, as that will take his total for Adudu. 300 will be his qualifying number. He's at 732.5.
Shawn Noriega, coached by Joey Flex. Joey Flex has a bunch of lifters here in Primetime.
Noriega, an attempt of 305. So he won't be able to complete, as these have been some ambitious numbers, but a few guys have been running out of steam here in this final rotation. As Russel Orhii, 2 lifters left. Orhii will be going for 312.5. A subtotal right now of 785.5. He's going to come away with the win no matter what.
We've got the crowd getting pumped for Russ Lowell.
You see them there. Yes, indeed.
And it looks good.
That's because it is good. 3 white lights for Orhii.
And he's walking off with a smile.
793 will be his final number.
So he put the 3-3 on. I think he was trolling just to say 333 because he changed it to 340.
Wow.
Classic powerlifter troll. So if he gets this, he'll make quite a jump from 9th to 5th. Getting in the top 5, not a bad deal.
And the thing is it sounds absurd that somebody would be able to make the jump of 19 kilos and actually land the lift. But with the way Ren has been in this deadlift, why not?
Why not? There's tons of phones recording this, hoping to be the first to post it on Instagram.
Oh. Will he be able to
Come
turn
on.
it? You've got to be kidding me. What will the judges say?
Yes.
3 white lights.
They gave it to him. 3 white lights.
That is phenomenal.
Awesome. Awesome to end the primetime session with such an amazing, impressive deadlift. That's what you get to see at Primetime. That's why we're here. That's why these lifters were chosen to put on a show for us on Thursday night.
So on a night that wraps up with Russel Orhii taking the title, on the final lift, Yangsu Ren goes from 9th place to 5th place, who will be on the podium after an unbelievable final lift of 340 kilos. Meg Gallagher, final thoughts.
That was awesome. You know, I expected a great show. I expected to have some fun and get to see some of my favorite lifters, and that's what happened. I think a lot of people at home are pleased with the show that was put on by the 63 kilo women and the 83 kilo men. I mean, what more can you ask for? Some big lifts, some lifters going out there and trying things that are tough, that are PRs, that are stuff, you know, you don't get to see lifts like this in any gym. You don't get to see lifts like this in any local competition. You get to see it here at USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals, and that's what we got to see on the Primetime session on Thursday night.
Folks, don't forget, if you want to become the next Russel Orhii or the next Yangsu Ren, I implore you, please go to www.usapowerlifting.com to find out how you can plug in to your local chapter and get your career started in powerlifting. And then, of course, don't forget, tomorrow, 9 a.m., we're back here. Plenty of broadcast action to be found for the rest of this weekend, as you can find us on bodybuilding.com/USAPL. Meg Gallagher, it was a pleasure.
Hey, thank you. My first color commentary, it was pretty fun.
It was a blast. We thank you so much. And as we'll continue to follow you as you become one of the social media mavens here in the world of powerlifting, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thanks for everybody for tuning in and watching some awesome powerlifting.
Folks, as we close up shop tonight for this Thursday prime time, just minutes away from the midnight hour, we thank you all for tuning in as we depart here from the Continental Ballroom of the Orlando Hyatt International Airport. Signing off for Meg Gallagher, for Dr. Trey Cunningham, this is Brian Rushing, as we'll see you back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. for more Raw National action inside the Continental Ballroom. Until then, good night, everybody.